GPS all on your wrist. Make you my wife, you no longer my bitch.
Let's get it. My name is Will. I'm the host of this show, the number one Polynesian podcast in the world.
Drippin' in Versace. All these other hoes trying to copy.
Women tend to bounce around in relationships. They can't stick and stay in a long-term relationship.
Again, don't agree with this.
So let's say, are you still in it? Are you still in it?
No. So you're basically saying I'm a whore.
This content is not suitable for the children under the age of 18 without adult supervision. Please be advised.
So I just wanted to take the time and make this video to apologize to absolutely nobody. What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another session of the Masculine Mind, live out of San Francisco on this beautiful Thursday night, where we focus on male masculinity, self-improvement, and purpose. As you guys can see, I'm joined tonight with the Palo Festa. We have a good topic to discuss tonight with all the fellas out there. And as always, for everybody that does tune in for the Masculine Mind, don't forget, if you see value in this content, the best way you can support the channel and support us is to smash that like and subscribe button real quick. Don't forget, this is a public show, so I do encourage, especially the fellas and the women, but especially the fellas, because this podcast is solely focused on the fellas for self-improvement and masculinity. And do encourage you guys to jump on and click on that link. The link is in the description of this video. So just click on that link. You'll be able to join us and be part of the discussion. Also, the ladies as well. I always like to invite the ladies. I know a lot of you guys have questions. You always ask on Instagram that's related to masculinity and the struggles that you're dealing with your partner and relationships in the dating market. Yeah, definitely click on that link and jump on and ask us questions between me and Palo Festa, and we can respond to you. But as always, I appreciate you guys always tapping in for the Masculine Mind. And of course, it is a live chat. So let's get that live chat popping. I know there's a couple of you guys watching already. Don't be a ninja watcher. Don't be a creep. Participate. Let me know what you guys think on the live chat. If you have any questions or thoughts or opinions, share it on the live chat. Let me know. Or just show some support. And of course, if you want your voice to be heard, best way to do it, drop it through a super chat. I'll be able to respond to any questions or topics that you guys want us to discuss and share. And I'll definitely put your comments and your super chats on the screen, read it out for everybody to see, give you a shout out, and we can respond and react to you guys. And of course, the best way to support me on my locals. That's the best way to support the channel. So I can definitely self-improve the channel to give you guys the best quality content. So the locals link is in the description below. Be able to have access to exclusive content, vlogs I do behind the scenes, and of course, direct access to me. And of course, one of the special perks for being a supporting member of my locals, you'll be able to jump on as a public guest on my Friday night shows and my Saturday night shows, where typically it's more, it's an in-studio show. So nevertheless, I do appreciate you guys always tapping in, be part of the podcast and be part of the Masculine Mind. But we'll go right into it. Palo Festa, as always, thank you for jumping on, for being part of the pod. But yeah, man, we've been talking a little bit before the podcast, right? A little bit right before the podcast coming into this, and the topic I want to discuss tonight is men's values and why is masculinity conditional for modern men, which is something that we've discussed, I think, multitude of times on previous podcasts. There is a lot of men out there that's having a difficult time to develop their masculinity. And of course, there's a lot of women out there, especially modern women, claiming that modern men today are no longer in their masculine. There's a lot of feminine men out there. So this is a very important topic to discuss. I know there's a lot of fellas out there, young men out there right now, they're struggling with their masculinity. And there's a lot of things we're going to discuss tonight where we think that society has made masculinity somewhat conditional, or maybe they make men to believe that they don't have to be masculine anymore. to attract the results they want, not only for themselves, for their own personal life, but also for their relationship. So this is going to be an interesting topic to discuss, to get right into it. And I see you, Nino Nation, on the live chat. Shout out to you, man. Thank you for already showing Balafessa some love. But I'll pass it to you, Balafessa. Well, let's open. What's your general opening thoughts about tonight's topic, and we can just take it from there.
I haven't. It's taken me some time. I love this topic so much because it seems that this seems to be the case with a lot of men, especially in the content space. And people may argue this is YouTube, this is not real life, but unfortunately, a lot of young men are now looking towards online spaces for at least some guidance and some guidelines. So we can only have that excuse for so long, that this is only YouTube, this is only TikTok, this is only Instagram, real life is different. We can only have that excuse for, it's very limited. That time frame is very limited. What I tend to see and this has been lost almost in a sense of men have been conditioned, and I don't know exactly who has, whether it's the media, whether it's just in our ideology, whether it's the schooling system. But what I know for certain is that men have been conditioned to move away from integrity and root and foundation the way that they operate based on sympathy. And what do I mean by that? The surest sign of this happening is that all throughout the content space, from men that we perceive as quote unquote masculine, a lot of rhetoric that they speak on is men want peace from their women.
Yeah.
For me, as someone who try and cultivate masculinity on a day-to-day basis, I don't give a fuck about peace from my woman, to be honest. I need her to produce me children. I need her to support me in the vision that I have. I need her to be a wife. And oftentimes that can be unpeaceful. The other rhetoric that's been driven is men need safe spaces from their women. That's another thing I don't give a fuck about from my wife. I don't need safe spaces. I need an environment that increases my likelihood to be brave, because life is dangerous and it's chaotic, and the things that are close to me needs to be protected. If I am feeling safe, then the safest thing to do is to shelter and to hide from the world. That's it. That's the safest thing to do.
Yeah.
I need a space where it is conducive to bravery, to courage, to integrity. These are the things that I need around the environment that I'm in order for me to operate as a masculine man. And those things are self-cultivated. Those things I figure out strategies and ways to ensure that the environment I'm in promotes those things. So to not go on a tangent any longer than I need to, most men operate out of sympathy. We look towards women for their sympathy. We look towards other men for their sympathy. And rather than wanting to hear a good friend that stands by your side say, dude, you're fucking up your life. Stop feeling poor. Stop feeling so weak and trying to condition yourself to be weak. Pick your shit up and move forward. This is your life we're talking about here. We would rather hear a man say, woe is you. I get it, man. We're both disadvantaged. We're both oppressed. Life isn't fair, and I'm here for you. And it's an abrasive way of thinking, and it's an abrasive way of speaking, especially in today's world with men, because no one wants to hear that. We just want to be confirmed that we're disadvantaged.
Yeah. I want to, man, you made some good points, but I want to start with the men need peace, because that is a rhetoric I do hear a lot on the red pill or manosphere space, wherever you get your content from, that they're always complaining about their that men just want peace. You know, they don't want their women to be very to create conflict and always bother them or nagging them or whatever the issue is. But it's an interesting statement that you just said, because a lot of times when I hear a lot of men say men want peace, but if you look at the men who are in relationships where the women are giving them peace, it's usually based on what I see is the woman respects the man because the man is doing what he's supposed to do, or he creates that environment for her. But sometimes when I hear a lot of men say, "Oh, I just want peace," but at the same time they're in a relationship with a woman where they're just allowing the woman to disrespect them. The woman is not respecting his boundaries or his role as a man. So the way I see it is, if you want peace from a woman, then it still starts with you as a man. It still goes back to you as a man, because at the end of the day, you are still the leader, right? If you are the leader, you are creating. If you are have a set of strong boundaries and values, and you're picking a woman, which you said that you don't want to. You want a wife. You don't give a fuck about peace. You want a wife. So as a man, if you're selecting a good woman, you're very strong on your morals and your values and your principles of how you run your relationship. You're fulfilling your responsibilities as a man. Then wouldn't that natural byproduct of that is peace, or maybe not peace, but quote unquote. We don't even have to use the word peace, but the way maybe for me it's just respect. Like, she respects you.
Yeah.
Because a woman respects you, the relation you won't have any you won't have unnecessary conflicts or issues in your relationship, or chaos or chaotic or drama in your relationship. So because that's the one thing I just the one thing that and also when they say the word I want peace, there's also this it almost sounds like that we just want something without the man really have to like doing something about it or putting in the work to get the peace that you want from your woman. So it makes it seem like that by default, if you're the man, if you're the breadwinner, if I'm paying the bills, a woman, I think we've talked about this before on a previous podcast. A lot of men assume that just because I'm the breadwinner, just because I pay all the bills, or I'm the man, by default, like, I'm the leader. Which we all understand that leadership is not something that's given, it's something that has to be earned. And then sometimes when I hear a lot of men, I just want peace. Your woman is not going to give you peace unless you actually become that man that's going to demand peace from her, or become the type of man that respects you, that you're going to get that peace that you're looking for as a man. It just seems like, for me, for a lot of guys, I just want peace. I just want peace. I want peace from a woman. It's like you're wanting something, you're wanting a specific result, and there's no conversation about how to attain it, which we all know how to attain it. There has to be some kind of work that has to be done within you as a man to get what you want from the woman. And I think sometimes when we hear that from the reptile space, I want peace, there's no conversation about the type of man that you are, and if that woman is respecting you as a man. It's like, it just seems like that we just want the result, but we don't want the work that needs to be done. That needs to be done as a man, which is usually involved around accountability and responsibility.
You said something that I also often speak on, and it is the idea of a byproduct.
Yeah.
Peace is a byproduct.
Yeah.
Happiness is a byproduct, right? So I think we have woven this idea that the benefits of life that a man should get is deserving on the man without the work.
Yeah.
And it's a huge misconception of what life is and what a man's life is, right? I think fundamentally we as men understand that in order to reap the benefits of life, regardless of whether it is in your career, your personal life, romantic ones, you have to work for it. Yeah. But there's also another thing that comes with it. It is conditional. It is conditional on your competency. The idea of peace to me is very much, I associate it with detriment. It's a detriment to me to find peace. And the reason for that is I like to think of men should pursue mastery over the storm. Your life does not become more peaceful. You just master how to navigate the storm a lot better than you typically were. So although you can recognize there's a storm brewing or you're in the storm, you have attained the level of competency in order to navigate it without a sweat drop. And I think we have confused peace for this very thing, competency. My relationship with my wife may look peaceful to the outside. It is not peaceful at all. I have just mastered the skills necessary to navigate that storm where my wife no longer fights me, she comes along. Right. So that's why I speak on peace. I don't want peace. I want to master the skills to navigate the chaos of life. And I want chaos because chaos improves my skills. It improves my competency so that when there is storms outside of my control, I am ready and I'm prepared. My wife's disease is one of those uncontrollable storms. And if I did not cultivate this idea of being a master of the storm, I wouldn't have been ready when we received the diagnosis. So people like to think, and they said, I think people subconsciously think that life is a utopian. That I deserve to have this, so therefore my life will become this positive in all things. No, life will hit you in the face. And oftentimes we don't sit down and think, what is the worst that could happen to me that is further outside of my control, and how do I prepare myself for it?
You know, Toko, as you were explaining that really well, I just came to an idea that men saying they want peace from a woman is absolutely bullshit. And the reason why, because we talked about, we talked about chaos. A woman's chaotic because they're emotional, right? So you talked about navigating the storm. So to expect a woman to give you absolute peace in a long-term relationship is it's delusional, but it's not reality, because women operate out of emotion, so they're always gonna be chaotic in nature, so it's never gonna be peaceful if you're dealing with the woman. And I'm not I don't want to, because I see this in the red pill that we always try to I'm not attacking the woman's nature, but I think the concept that if we understand that women are emotional, we understand they're going to be chaotic, we understand that that's the nature of a woman. We shouldn't be seeking peace. We should be seeking what you said, mastery of how to maintain that, or resolve the conflict so you can come. I don't want to even say the word peace, but I think the better way to say it is have the ability to resolve a crisis so that you can maintain order. Maybe order is the better way to say it. Maybe order is the better word, because
order and redirect the chaos that women bring to your life.
Yeah.
Right. We can't suppress the nature of women, but we can redirect where the chaos goes. Right. So I can't have a battle with life's chaos and have my woman also standing by the side, not pulling up the anchor.
Yeah.
Not putting down the sails. If she's standing there with her arms folded and be chaotic in that nature, no, be upset and go pull the damn sails up so that we can navigate through the storm. It's redirecting that nature of women to beneficial things that will be conducive to your relationship, right? So, and this is why I have difficulty having these conversations with men who are so set in stone in this idea of women's nature, but then go on to speak in a manner where we want to suppress it.
Yeah.
You can never suppress a lot of the things that are by nature to us, but we can redirect and channel it. So things like, this is a prime example for us as men. By nature, we polygamous by nature, right? We want to extend our lineage and be, lay with many women. It is also within our nature to be disciplined, right? So I'm not suppressing, I'm redirecting that, okay, I want a legacy. I just don't think that it's conducive to me and my future to be with multiple women, because I can't trace my lineage that way, and I cannot ensure the longevity of that legacy. So therefore, I'm redirecting that nature to one woman and be monogamous and be disciplined in that avenue, right? So it's not so much a conversation about suppressing, but it is, and it does sound like that we have these conversations about suppressing nature. It's like, understand women's nature, and then redirect them in a way, in a manner that it's beneficial to the relationship for both people. Well, yeah. So that's why I prefer mastery rather than because
having the skills, right? It's having the skills to be able to navigate that chaos. Because the one thing I do see for a lot of guys, especially the guys I see online or in my own personal experience, which I never saw from my own dad. But a lot of guys today, they tend to let the small things go. When the little problems or the little disrespects that I do sometimes see for a lot of women. Um, my dad, when like he always addressed things when something was wrong or something was wrong between me and my mom. I always saw him like he addressed it, but either there or they had their own private conversation. I think the mastery of the skills that you were talking about to bring that order or from the woman that you want. But I do see a lot of guys, and you see in a lot of content, girls just talking, girls just openly disrespecting their men online, or filming that they're filming their men online when the man is, they want to expose their men for whatever behavior or their whatever issue they have with the man, and the man just accept it. I'm starting to see that as a trend now on social media. Instead of these guys are not really, I guess the quote unquote, they have the skills that you were talking about. That if you're having a problem with your woman, if she's disrespecting your boundaries, is she disrespecting you as a man, or is she doing things that you don't agree with as a man? You got to be able to know how to navigate that and stabilize. What the word stabilize or resolve it? That's the word I'm looking for. Resolve that. But if you don't know how to resolve that, then that chaos is going to grow, and then you're going to have issues. The small issues go to big issues, and then your woman's acting irrational, doing things that doesn't make you look good as a man, that's harming the relationship. And then we don't take accountability for it, and then we go on social media, all these women are the same, they're masculine, they're all emotional, and I just want peace. But you didn't do anything as a man to resolve the issues. Instead of facing it, like Dr. Jordan Peterson always said, you need to face it, but we like to run away from it. No, I just thought about that when you were explaining that the notion that the idea that we want peace, or the woman's going to give you peace, that's women are always going to be chaotic, as always. That's never going to change.
Yeah, and the one of the reasons why we qualify it as chaotic is because women are extremely short-sighted. They're extremely short-sighted, so that's why things like happiness is very important to them in their state of emotions, because emotions is a very short-felt thing, and because women operated out of this ideal, and we can talk about biology, but has no importance. We just understand it. They're short-sighted in that way. However, it is not a detriment to themselves. It's actually a extreme benefit to women because of child rearing.
Yeah,
children are very chaotic. So women have over time have tuned themselves to be in accordance to how children react. Oh, baby's hurt. Okay, I need to be sympathetic. Oh, baby's being naughty. I need to be tough mother. So these interchangeable things are actually a benefit to women. So if we have this conversation around nature, then we have to accept why the nature is in there in the first place, and is there any benefit to it or not? If there's no benefit at all, then we can make the argument of, okay, maybe women need to change their ways. Right, but we need to acknowledge the benefits to those things. The other side of that coin is for us is that your masculinity is not conditional based on the woman that you are in front of. And the reason for that is consistency and competency is bred over diligently practicing those things that requires you to be a masculine man. So if you're saying to me, I am only a masculine man and treat a woman good when a woman is good herself, then you're telling me that you're not truly you don't truly believe nor practice the things that you speak on. So like the discipline conversation we have. How can I sit here as a man and say discipline is one of the three tenets of masculinity to me, and then when I have a conversation about being monogamous or being polyamorous, I say, well, it's within my nature to go and fuck as many women that I like, so therefore I can do that. By the very definition of discipline, you are undisciplined because you're conditional in only these facets, but then unconditional in these. and it can't happen. And I think for me, it's very much the life of a man is very linear. You either do or you don't, and if you don't, you can't claim that you do. You're either disciplined or you're not. You cannot claim discipline if you're undisciplined in some areas. You cannot claim masculinity in a masculine man if you're only masculine in some areas and not all areas of your life. And one of these examples for me is the way that I gauge how I am on these panels, especially when I'm attacked.
Yeah.
I practice not being reactionary to a lot of these things, because to me that's not how a man should react. Remain calm, attack the argument. It's a code of operation for us as people who involve ourselves in podcast spaces. If I truly say that I'm a man, I'm a masculine man, and I adhere to masculinity through and through, then I cannot be reactionary when someone says something I dislike, right? And look, if you operate in that manner, that's fine with you. But the principle in which guides the man that I am tells me that you cannot be disciplined only in a few things or some things and be extremely undisciplined. It's not conditional, and it's non-negotiable for me.
Yeah. Now that's something I do see. That's something, that conditional masculinity. That's something I do see online. But I also think that the conditional masculinity also comes with a lot of the advice, or the dating advice or strategies that a lot of the red pill content creators or maybe the solutions that men think that this is the modern solution in order to battle feminism of the modern women, right? One example would be, I think I shared this before, the 50-50, right? When you go on a date. So as a man, our role is to be the provider and protector, to make sure we not only to take care of our woman. And we live in a society today that men are going out there and picking and choosing when they want to provide or protect a woman. Hey, if I'm in a 50-50 relationship, somebody breaks into my house, hey, when do you look? I'm going to look to you and say, hey, are you going to protect us? Are you going to go out there and fight the aggressor? So this type of ideology that I do see that's pushed now because of the 50-50 and because, we're trying to battle against feminism. It's an equal world right now. And then I think a lot of the ideologies or the strategies or the dating tips that I do see from a lot of guys, I think that could be a big problem of why this, the concept of what the topic we're discussing tonight, masculinity is now conditional. It's because men are starting to notice that the women today they're no longer feminine. They're practicing conditional femininity, which is something that they use on the red pill. So I understand why they're doing it, but for me, it doesn't push us towards a solution, because at the end of the day, what do men want? We want to be a masculine leader. We want all women to be feminine, and we want the woman to respect us, and we want to have a good relationship. So for me, is the way I see it is being 50-50 and being conditional in our masculinity, or being conditional when we want to love and protect and provide for a woman, doesn't help you build that consistency or that discipline that we talked about before. Because for me, it's not a choice. It's masculinity or our decision or our commitment to provide or protect for a woman. It's not an off and on switch where we just turn it on and turn it off. All right. Especially if it's something that's going to be highly ingrained within you as a man, that's going to be part of your self-identity, to be the provider protector. I think that's why you can't be conditional, because what happens is, if it's conditional, then what the way I see it is, when things get tough and when life finally hits the fucking fan and starts to fall apart, and you are needed as a man to step up into your masculine and be that fucking provider protector, if it's not deeply ingrained in you that that's who you are as a man, then you've been conditioning your whole life to be, I want to pick and choose. Then that's when I see a lot of guys that when it's really time to fulfill your role as a man, to be that man, to be that provider protector, a lot of these guys tend to fold and run away from out of the responsibility on their duty, right? But as a man, if you've been practicing masculinity, look, I'm a masculine man, I'm accountable, I'm resilient, I'm disciplined. The 3 tenets of masculinity. I have a duty to my wife. I am the provider protector. That is my sole duty. That is the purpose of why I was created as a biological man. There is no doubt in your mind that when shit hits the fan, it doesn't matter if it's peaceful, good times, or bad times. It still starts with me. I'm gonna fulfill it, right? If that's something that you've been practicing and it's non-negotiable as part of like, this is my responsibility as a man. What I fear the most is a lot of these ideologies that they're telling the guys, oh, it's 50-50. What do you want to pay? It's it's not well, I'm trying to say, what's the word? It's not it's not something that's going to be part of their who they are as a man. So when things go bad and things go wrong, or stuff happens when they finally need to step up, because that's not really who they are as a man, then that's why we see a lot of these guys are, they're just choosing, this is too hard, this is too difficult. Instead of stepping up right now and taking care of my responsibility, not only for myself, for my family. That's why a lot of these guys just tend to take the path of least resistance or end up running away from their problems. So I think masculinity is something that I think that's the problem is, either you're masculine or you're not masculine. There is no, I'll pick and choose where, I'll be masculine at this point of the relationship or this part of the dating phase. And then maybe when I find a good woman, then I'll turn on the off switch, or not the off switch, I'll turn on the switch and I'll finally become masculine. I don't think that's how masculinity operates. It's either you are the masculine man or you're not the masculine man. But I think in the long run, because there's always going to be problems, then I think that's why a lot of these young guys are finding out that when shit hits the fan and when life starts to fall apart and all is left is you. If you ain't within your masculinity, then I think that's why a lot of these guys are having difficult problems.
Yeah, and it's the problem is also in the rhetorics that we adopt and we use in these platforms, right? Is that, for example, and I think this is a big issue when we speak on women's history of being promiscuous. We often say things like, okay, if you have a history of being, this type of woman, what instills confidence in me that if I was to make you the wife and the mother of my children, that you're going to change your ways and become this complete opposite of traits and characteristics of a woman? So in the conversation around promiscuity, if you've been a promiscuous woman, what makes you think that I will trust you to be a mother when a mother operates on completely different standards than a woman that is promiscuous?
Yeah.
The same thing applies to us as men. There's a different perspective that I have now that I'm a father, is that I have a daughter. And if I analyze the men that will come into my life, into my daughter's life at the stage that she is ready to be one to be approached, I will consider your history. And if you've shown that you have been a man who's completely undisciplined with himself, especially in his sexual nature, I have no trust in you to uphold yourself as a husband, as a father, as a man that is going to be beneficial for my daughter. It's the same thing that we should apply to men. If you show a history of being undisciplined, and there's areas that requires extreme discipline to be the avatar of masculinity, what makes you think that out of the blue you're going to flick a switch and you're going to become the man that you should be, the good, strong man that is the foundation of a strong family? It's not a light switch, and we operate in such a way that I think we've convinced ourselves that when I meet the right woman, I'm just going to flick a switch and become a good man. Yeah. It's not how life is for neither man or woman.
Yeah.
Right? So we need we need collectively as men, we need to sit down and say, okay, we need to figure out what standards we adhere to as men to consider ourselves as good men and masculine men. And we need to practice those things diligently, right? The most simplest example is strength. Strength can be manifested in mental, emotional, and even physical. The way you train for strength physically is through consistency and repetition. You cannot go for 6 months and then move away for a month and then go back to the same lift that you did prior to leaving. And you cannot develop a good strength if you keep going on and off and on and off and on and off to the gym and where your training is.
Yeah.
That will hurt you. You'll be more prone to injury. Not only that, your motivation level to complete to continue is going to be demolished.
Yeah.
These same things apply to masculinity as men.
Facts.
You cannot just go on and off. In no endeavor whatsoever in humankind where you can go on and off on a particular thing and become proficient at it. And I would love for anyone to challenge me on that on that basic fundamental of human life, right? So this idea of I can be the party boy and sleep with the bad women of society and multiple women on society, but when I meet a good woman, I'm gonna be the good man that woman deserves.
All of a sudden, you're gonna become that masculine man, right?
Yeah, and it's not so much of this woman deserve it. It's I am who I am. I'm a man, therefore I operate as such.
Yeah.
And a man to me is someone who is disciplined, resilient, and accountable. And I cannot switch that on and off just because there's someone in front of me. And what that really tells me is that we are led by women. Bad women will lead us to be bad men. Good women will lead us to be good women. I detest that notion that men should operate as such. I am a man, therefore I do. And that's a conversation that needs to be had, especially in these spaces, because as much as people say people in real life is doing completely different things only for a certain period of time, the generation that's growing now are looking towards online content to at least derive some sense of guidelines. And if all we're saying is that to men is be conditional based on the women that you come across, you are further conditioning men to be conditional and to operate in a strategy that female typically operates under. And it's very conditional.
Yeah.
And they have to be.
Yeah, it does it. Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking about the analogy where, maybe a lot of guys will be able to understand this a lot better. But I'm a big NBA fan, and how I don't know if you watch NBA, but there's always a talking about the NBA. A lot of teams they will just they won't take the regular season seriously, right? They won't play hard, and then they'll just all of a sudden they'll just pick light a switch on the playoffs and become that playoff team. But what happens is when you see those teams that don't take the regular season seriously, they kind of struggle when they go to the playoffs. When the teams have been playing championship level the whole entire regular season, they usually tend to do better because they've been playing at that level their entire time. The idea that you're going to turn that switch and just have mastery over your emotions and your physical and and all the things that you need to be that to perform at the most elite level, that doesn't work because you have to put in the work. So that's powerful when it comes to masculinity. You have to do the work every single day in and day out.
That is why people like Michael, people like Kobe, were such huge influence on the game.
Yeah.
The outcome was the game itself. The work that they put in and day out did not stop because they understood in order to perform well and be competent, you don't have days off.
Yeah.
And you don't subdue yourself to the emotional chaos that you have. Oh, I don't feel like it. Get the fuck into the gym.
Yeah.
And what we're talking about masculinity is that you have to be consistent in the gym of life. What does that mean? Discipline. You need to be extremely disciplined and practice that diligently. Be resilient. Seek out opportunities where it's going to challenge you in ways that will push you close to your limits. And be accountable. Accountability has a very interesting role in my personal life because I can trace it back to when I was 6 years old. And I had a conversation with my old man. So my background is the LDS church. My old man did not grow up, wasn't born into the church. My brother got converted into the church and he went on his mission.
Yeah.
When he came back, he converted my father. And I had this conversation with him and I said, okay, the church believes in no smoking, no drinking, but I hear that you talk a lot about your career as a bartender and that you were this person who was always drunk and had such a fun life. How is it that you were able to switch on to a religion that required you to stop all these things? And the thing he said to me, which I didn't understand at the time, obviously for my age, was that when a man makes a decision, he should honor that decision for the entirety of his life.
Yeah.
And that should be the way that you operate. In the meaning of, when I say I'm going to commit to this church, when I say I'm going to stop smoking, I stop. When I say I'm going to stop whatever, when I say word, it is a promise to myself that I should honor first and foremost. And that to me revealed what accountability really meant, is that through my actions and through the things that I say, I should honor those things because the things I say should be important enough for me to honor. And that's I think for me was the seed of accountability. And that's when I speak on things like when my wife, I'm accountable to my wife because that's a decision I made. I'm accountable to the children that I have because that's a decision I made. And oftentimes we'd like to be delusional enough to say that, oh, I'm not accountable for things outside of my control. Well, you had some control because oftentimes those things based on decisions.
Yeah.
You're in a relationship, that's a decision. You're in a career, that's a decision. To get in your car, that's a decision. Which is why I take accountability to its extreme when it's my control, my decision.
I was having a conversation with one of my good buddies, good friends of mine, I think yesterday. And I totally agree with you. Accountability has to be taken seriously. It has to be part of the part of who you are as a man. But I remember my good friend, he called me and he was asking for he was just going through something with his life and he was trying to figure out what he wanted to do. And he was telling me, man, how do you he asked me, he was like, how do you find the motivation? He's been watching me ever since I started this YouTube channel. But he asked me, like, how do you have the motivation to keep doing what you're doing? Or, when you go through hard times, when you go through when you're going through a midlife crisis, like what motivates you to do it? And my answer to him was, there's no motivation. I just do it because I'm accountable to my decisions and I'm accountable to the things I want to do for myself and for my life. There is no, and I think why accountability is so important and I think that's why it's delusional for when I hear a lot of guys, when I'll be able to flick that switch and just man up and step up. Usually when guys say that, especially when in the worst of circumstances, when you're going through a crisis, to me is I've built that habit of being accountable. It's become something that's natural for me, that even when I go through hard times, most people, if you haven't built that habitual tendency to like just make decisions when you go through hard times, most people would go through it, they'll dwell into their emotions and they'll, be negative, or they'll still feel sorry for themselves, or they'll try to look for some pity party from somebody else. But there's certain times in this on my journey when I've gone through hard times, but I don't even stop. I don't even stop to think about the hard time or the crisis or the obstacle or the challenge or the problem I'm facing. I just know that I'm a man accountable to my decisions. I make decisions. So when I do go through a hard time, I don't waste my energy or my time worrying about my emotions, how I feel at that moment, or worrying about the outcome or how that's going to affect me. All I'm thinking about is I got to make a decision. I got to move forward. I got to figure out a solution and keep doing it. And I was trying to explain that to my friend. I was like, no, it's not about motivation. It's just I go through the same issues, or there are days I wake up and I don't feel good. There are days I don't want to make content. There are days I ask myself, I've gone this far doing this YouTube thing, and I'm not, the results aren't there, but I keep doing it because I'm accountable to my decision. I told myself that this is something I'm going to do, and I think, and I think that's something that's why accountability. I think that's why accountability is big, because when you go through hard times, when you go through, most people, what they do if they're not accountable, they're indecisive. They're not making a decision, and if you're indecisive, people tend to just focus on their feelings or their circumstance, or the things that they can't control. So, and I think that's what happens for a lot of guys is, and I was telling him, you're more focused on the things out of your control. I just think about, what can I control? There's a million things happening to me right now. There's a million people, situations, people, circumstances. But the only thing I know for sure as a man that I know I can control for myself is I always can control my decision. Like, that's one thing that as a man, I have confidence in myself. I can control what decision I make today. And I think that's why accountability. That's why when I hear a lot of guys say, "Oh, I'm going to man up," no, you really think that you're going to man up and make a decision in the worst time of your life? You think that when your world is falling apart, that you're just going to tap into your you're just going to make a decision like that if you haven't practiced that throughout your life? And the thing is, I've gone through a lot of worse situations in my entire journey as a man, and I've always been accountable, and I've always made a decision to overcome it, and that's my history, and it's always worked out. There's evidence for me. Is the reason why I keep making decisions, because I have the evidence. I have the evidence to look back and look. I've survived every single issue and struggle I've gone through, and I've made it this far. And if you haven't, I think for a lot of guys, if you haven't built that, you would call it muscle memory, or that muscle memory to be accountable, then you, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna rely on when you go through a hard time? You've never been accountable to your decisions, to kind of give you some kind of history, to give you confidence as a man that you can overcome it. If you don't have none of that, then you're just gonna be confident at that point and figure it out. If you've never had the history or the habit behind it, I think it's not going to work out. And I think that's why a lot of guys is, I know it might sound extreme for a lot of people to take 100% accountability for your decisions, but for me, it's something it's almost to the point of it being an instinct, that when shit happens, I probably feel it for like a couple seconds, but the instinct with me as a man is, look, I'm accountable. That's a tenet. That's a principle I live by. Make a decision and move forward. There's literally, I think people hear this like, oh, that sounds like maybe that's very toxic. You're not thinking about your emotions at that point, or kind of dwelling. No, it's not. I don't think it's about toxic. It's not toxic. I've understood for myself that when things don't go well, a decision has to be made. When a problem arises, it has to be solved. The dwelling or delaying that decision is not going to benefit me as a man. I think it might sound extreme, but yeah, relying on motivation or thinking about how I feel at that moment, I think it hurts a lot of guys, and I think that's why I feel a lot of guys are, especially with the social media, I do see a lot of that push, right? You have to be motivated, the words of affirmations to feel good, and all of this bullshit I see. At the end of the day, when you go through hard shit as a man, you have to make a hard decision. That's all it is. You make the hard decision, overcome the hard things to get the results that you want. And that's why I think accountability is always going to work out for me. But
yeah. The conversation about accountability has been, for me personally, I think it's very unfortunate that accountability is now used as this tool to beat people up over the head with.
Yeah.
And not only that, it's also viewed as an extreme when we apply it in the way that you and I apply it. I think the reason why people view it in such manner is that they confuse what accountability is. And to me, and I shared this with you before, is that accountability is not a fault metric. It is a responsibility matrix. It is not who is at fault for the reason why my life is the way it is. It's not what accountability is. Accountability is always, the first instant is self-induced. Who is responsible for my life and how the outcome develops over the span of time that I'm here? Me. Who is responsible for the way that I'm reacting to these things? Me. Right? So that's where accountability is. And oftentimes people use the fault metric in order to demonize other people when they do certain things, especially when it is a direct involvement of you and there's pain involved. It's not a fault metric. Who's at fault here? It's not that. Accountability is who is responsible for the outcome of my life. And the answer, which a lot of people don't want to face, is you yourself. That's the answer. Very simple. Face yourself in the mirror and say, what are the things that I need to improve in order for me to at least have some enjoyment in this life that I have, right? So I think that's where the differences is in terms of how we view accountability, is because we're not tied up at who is at fault, because we don't view it as such. I don't crucify people under accountability, because that's not what it means to me. Accountability means to me is it's self-induced first, right? So I'm responsible for me and how I react to life and the things that come my way, and that's how I should act accordingly.
Also, people may call accountability when you men who have taken 100% accountability for every single decision they make. A lot of people will call it extreme, but for me, the way I see it is you have to be extreme, because when it comes to the extreme hardships or problems with our lives, we can't pick and choose our problems, so you can't pick and choose what happens to you. So that's why you have to, that's why I believe we have to practice accountability, because life is always there's no guarantee of the things that's going to happen for you. You can be successful, you can accomplish everything, but there's always going to be some unknown thing that's going to happen, or that's going to come into your life that you're unprepared for. And I think the best strategy for us as a man to prepare for the things that we're not prepared for in life is being 100% accountable, right? And you mentioned the thing that you're going through with your wife, right? With her sickness. You guys weren't prepared for that. I'm sure when you guys got together, like you guys didn't even think that was a plausible outcome that was going to happen to you guys, but here it is, it happens. And then that's why I think for a lot of people that they call it extreme, but they don't. But the way I see it, life can be extreme. There's always going to be something that's going to happen to us that you're unprepared for, and you're never going to expect. And I haven't seen anybody else. So if offer a different strategy, or offer something else that can replace 100% accountability, that would still use the same result that I get from being 100% accountable for my life. If there was something else that somebody can offer that can replace 100% of being accountable and still get the results I'm looking for as a man, then I'll be open to do that. So, but the thing is, when you listen to the things, the advice or the strategies that they want to present to me, go to therapy or let's talk about our problems, or all that, I'm like, that's not going to help me when I'm going through a midlife crisis, and there's a problem that I've never seen before, I've never prepared for, and it's hitting me hard in my life. So that's the only thing I just, when people label it, oh, you're very extreme, or or you're very you say, it made me seem like you're like a maniac or something. But just the way I see it is, you can't pick and choose your problems. Sometimes, life can be extreme as well, especially when you go through a hard time and hit rock bottom. And you have to be if you're going through an extreme time, then you have to be extreme, especially when it comes to your decision making and committing and following it through and figuring and resolving it. So yeah, just that's just the way I see it. You have to be extreme.
Yeah, Well, it's extreme because when people apply the same standards to themselves, they don't trust themselves to make the right decisions, right? So it's easier to point the fingers at other people for the reason why you're in a certain predicament. This may sound arrogant to a lot of people, but I fucking trust 110% in my ability to make the decision that needs to be done, whether right or wrong.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether accountability contributed to that or that my nature is how accountability was bred from the beginning. But I trust me completely that when I make a decision, I'm accountable to that decision 110%. Whether it's right or wrong, it is a decision I made, and I trust myself wholeheartedly. And I think when people don't operate in that way, they look at it as extreme. And typically they pull from life and say, well, life will present X, Y, and Z, and you can make a decision based on this. No, when you make a decision, you should trust yourself to make a decision that you're going to be happy with moving forward, whether it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the sense of trust and confidence in myself has really been complementary to what accountability is to us. It's not extreme. It's just I trust myself. And I think that provides at least what we conceive as peace. But
you know why you trust yourself, right?
yes,
You know why?
I do.
Yeah, because you've survived every single thing that life has to throw at you. That's why I was talking about the history, right? Like you every single thing that you've gone through, Palafesa, in your life, you've overcome it. You wouldn't be where you are right now in your life as a man if you didn't overcome everything. That's why I believe that I can regardless of what happens in front of me, I know for a fact I'm going to make a decision. But I also know for a fact that I've survived and overcome everything in my life to this point. So the evidence is there to give me confidence. You know, what's the that quote that you always love about by Alex Hermosi about confidence, right? Confidence is not a self-affirmation that you scream at yourself in the mirror. It's having an undeniable stack of proof that you are who you say you are. You know, I'm a man of accountability. I'm a man of fucking making decisions. And when shit goes wrong, I'm gonna figure out a way to solve it. And you've proven that to yourself over and over and over your whole entire life. So that's why I think at this point or at that level now, that your mindset, like, I don't give a fuck what happens. I'm gonna make a decision. I'm gonna solve it because I've done that through my entire life. It hasn't failed me now because I'm still here. I'm still standing. You know, I haven't fallen. And if I figured out before then, I can do it now. And I think that's why I believe it's not about a matter of right or wrong, because accountability is, if you make the right decision, great, right? If you make the wrong decision, well, I learned what not to do, so I can go back and making the right decision, and I'm gonna be back at moving forward and getting the results I want. So either way, it's still a win-win. I'm gonna make a decision that's right. I'm gonna make a decision. Oh, I learned something. Oh, now I learned what not to do. I learned something myself. I can self-improve. I've grown. And I can still make the right decision and move forward. But the worst case scenario is indecision and not doing anything, you know, and dwelling, complaining, and bitching and whining, and not doing it, and not making any kind of decision to self-improve and move or solve the problem. That's what a lot of guys. And of course, if you don't make a decision the men that are watching this right now, if you don't make a decision to solve the problems in your life, how are you going to have that body of work or that undeniable stack of proof? Like Alex Hermosi always says, how are you going to have that proof to give you confidence in yourself, in your decisions as a man, if you never make a decision, or if you don't even have the courage to challenge yourself to move forward? So that's why, for me, I always have confidence. Regardless of if I'm facing something that I'm unprepared for, I'm facing something I have no knowledge about. I'm going into a new venture. I'm trying a new opportunity. You know, I've decided to partner with this person that I just met. I don't know who this person is, but I'm taking a risk. The reason why I have confidence to take risks in life as a man, because I have the proof in the past that I've overcome things in my life. That's part of who I am as a man. I get shit done and I've overcome things. But if you don't really make decisions as a man to be accountable, you're always blaming, whining, and looking for other people to fix your problems, especially you're a woman, what is going to give you that proof and confidence in yourself to fucking trust your decisions? How are you going to do that? That's why I know for a fact that I know you trust 110% because you fucking overcome every single thing in your life to get to this point. But think about the man the man that's watching this right now, or boy, or the men out there who are not actively making any decisions, and they're whining, complaining, or going to therapy, whatever the reason is. How are they ever gonna have any kind of confidence in their decision making if they never have proof of them overcoming problems in their life and making that something that they've making something that's part of their history? That's man, that when you said that part, like, I trust 110% of my decision, that really hit me, because I was like, yeah, man, like I make a decision regardless if it's right or wrong, because that's how I'll overcome every single challenge in my life, and it hasn't failed me now, so I'm gonna keep doing it. But I have that proof, I have that.
Yeah.
Always rely on, But,
This is
go ahead.
you mentioned something that is thrown around in this space in all sorts of manner and ways, and it's been dressed up so many times that I think has led a lot of men astray, and that's self-improvement.
Yeah.
Self-improvement is dependent on your ability to make decisions, and for your ability to look back and analyze the history of decision making that you have made and its outcome, and choosing whether to optimize or refine any of those outcomes.
Yeah.
That's all self-improvement is. You
Yeah.
can dress it as going to the gym and following a diet or whatever. You can dress it as monk mode, whatever. All of those things are dependent on your ability to make decisions. So if you want to self-improve and you have been confused or lost in this idea of where do I start analyzing the decisions you've made over the entirety of your life, as far as you can trace it, that has been monumental in your life, and then analyze the outcome, and then decide either to optimize or refine the way you approach it.
Yeah.
Right? That is self-improvement in its core, your ability to make decisions. And if you look at a lot of people that we revere in our society, who we have a gauge of success, regardless whatever it is, whether it's in the professional realm or in their personal life or even romantic ones, it's people who can make decisions and follow through with that decision, and if it either turns left or right, they come away and going, that was the right decision to make and I stand by it, or I made the wrong decision, now I learn what not to do. And you've described it before. That is what self-improvement is. And if you can operate based on those fundamental, I promise you that your life will take a new perspective moving forward. Your ability to make decision and follow through, and your ability to gather what you've just mentioned, a body of work that you can be confident in.
Yeah.
And this is why consistency, and this is why the conversation around discipline is very important, in the sense of you cannot just be undisciplined in one facet of your life and consider yourself disciplined, because 99% of your life is all about discipline. You're still undisciplined.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is what we've spoken about. It needs to be consistent. And it's your ability to make decisions, right? So, it's the building up a body of work that is consistent over time, that you can look back on and say, I trust myself, because not only did I make the right decision, but also I made some wrong ones. However, I came back, reanalyze, and re-improve the way that I approach those decision making.
Yeah.
Right. So, if anyone wants to take anything away from this conversation, is decision making is your key to self-improvement. That's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know there's a lot of things that we see online. I think that's why a lot of guys are getting confused, right? Because there's just so much content out there that dresses up or gives them a different, you have to 3 steps to this, or you have to take a shower, meditation, or ice bath for this, and all this shit. If you go online, there's literally all these things that people see online as far as motivational content, but ultimately, it still comes down to a decision. You can take an ice bath, meditate. You can, go and get some sunlight and first thing you do in the morning. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you still have to make a decision at the end of the day. And the reason why I don't really get caught up with the ice bath and all that shit, because when you're going through the hard times, when life starts punching you in the fucking face, the last thing I think about is the ice bath.
Well, the other way of putting it, life is not going to allow you 5 minutes so you can go and take an ice bath.
Yeah, to fix your problem,
To fix your problem, right? It does build certain things, but it's the core fundamental of improving is decision making, and it's an internal process, right? And Tea Leaves, your comment is this idea of the perception of others. When it comes to decision making, it's all internal. It's, do I need to do this? Yes or no?
Yeah.
That stops you from considering how people are going to perceive you. Is this an important decision for me to make? Yes or no? Okay, do it. If it's not, great, leave it alone.
Yeah.
It takes away from the distraction of what might people think about me, or how is the world going to perceive me? No. Decision making and accountability brings that back to you, and the idea of, is this an important decision to make? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Then that's all that should matter, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, look, self-improvement is a big thing for men's life, because the entirety of a man's life is all about self-improvement, improving, and evolving, right? And the unfortunate thing is that we parade self-improvement and this thing that people try and mask on, like you said, ice baths, or read 10 books a year, or all these things. It all comes back down to decision making. You need to make a decision. And when life really fucking hits you in the face, you've got to decide.
You got to decide.
You're either going to lay down, bend over, and allow life to fuck you over, or you're going to say, face me, and whatever happens, happen, but I'm ready to face it. That's all it is.
I never seen somebody when they get handed a bill. Wait, you know what? Before I pay this bill, let me go take an ice bath real quick so I can figure out a way to pay my bills.
I mean, we're being facetious, but I don't think the thing that a lot of people.
I don't want to diminish those things. But I think those things can be. I don't think that. I think those things are good, but the way I see it is, it doesn't help you is in the hard times. Maybe good times where things are going well, right? But when it comes to hard decisions, when you have to make a decision now, to get the result you want, because there are going to be certain circumstances that you have to make the decision on the spot, right? You have to opportunity comes and goes. The opportunity presents itself. You have an opportunity to make a decision or something that can change your life. If you don't make a decision at that point, you can lose that opportunity. There is no time to go take a 5-minute ice bath because the opportunity may not be there. So that's why for me is the reading the books, I'm not diminishing the value of that, of how that can improve your life. I do believe those things still work, but I'm just talking about when like situations, hard times, problems, midlife crisis, shit hits the fan, and you have to make a decision, and it has to be now. That's why decision making and accountability comes into play. It will always, for me, always be my go-to to always rely on and depend on. All right.
Yeah, those things work when people understand the principles that they operate under. The decision to make, the ice bath and all these things. It's the ability to deny yourself of feeling too sympathetical in terms of, especially when you don't want to do it. So, but all of them boils down to just consistently making decisions and being in a state of, I trust myself to make this decision consistently, whether right or wrong. I stand by it 110%. Right. That's all it is. That's the principle of these things. And I think we do a lot more good when we contextualize the fundamental principle that these things operating under.
But usually when you look at those people who are advising the ice bath or read 10 books, for the most part, they're already accomplished and accountable themselves already.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're already accountable themselves already to get to that point. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Those. By the way, this is very important that people need to consider is that when these advices are offered, these are more of a maintenance
Yeah.
schedule. It's not the reason why a lot of people end up in the situation that they end up in. It's what they put together as a maintenance schedule for themselves to be accountable, to practice muscle memory so that they don't become blunt. It's a maintenance schedule that they have after the success. But prior to that, there has been chaotic measures that they put in place. They probably did a lot of things that some people might find unromantic to contemplate on. But at
Yeah.
the end of the day, it's I mean, we're repeating it, but it is. It's your ability to make decision and be satisfied that you made the right decision.
Yeah. I wish more influencers would actually make disclaimer. Hey, I didn't do this when I was at the bottom trying to figure out shit for my life. Now I'm doing it because I'm successful. So I think if there's, I wish somebody would make like a disclaimer, because sometimes, because let's be honest, everybody who started from the bottom, you didn't have time to do none of that shit. You just get up, go to work, you get shit done. That's all, and repeat it over and over until you make it. But I see you guys on the live chat. Tea leaves. Appreciate you guys. Can I get some podcasts? I appreciate you. Snuggles 668. You're just looking. Well, stop looking and type some shit and comment on the live chat. Be fucking accountable and stop and write something on the live chat. Evo 206. Appreciate you on the live chat. Thank you so much. And as always, appreciate you guys on the live chat. Definitely. Let me know what you guys think on the live chat. I would definitely love to respond to anything you guys have to say. So if you have a question or topic you want me and Balafesa to expand on and respond to you guys, drop it through a super chat. Drop it through a super chat. If you see value in the content, I reciprocate that by dropping it through a super chat, and we can answer any questions you guys have. And of course, don't forget, this is a live show. It's a live stream, so it's a public show. It's open for you guys. So I highly encourage the fellas, Tea Leaves. Can I get some podcasts? Evo 206. I highly encourage you guys to jump on and be part of this conversation as well. So the link is in the description below, and I would love to have more of you guys. And of course, the ladies. I would love to hear from the ladies as well. A lot of you guys want to have a misunderstanding of what masculinity is and the type of man that you want. So I would love to hear from the ladies as well. But we'll keep it moving. And we were talking about conditional masculinity. I do want to talk about the I know you brought it up earlier on the pod, Balafessa, but man, if I can find this clip. I wanted to find this clip because there was this clip of, because you brought up the space, right? That's something that we hear on the red pill, that men need a safe space, but of course you said that you don't believe in a safe space. That in your belief that's detrimental to a man's masculinity. You want a man to have a brave space to challenge him to be strong and competent. If I can find that clip, I want to play it, because there's this clip I saw that went viral online. It was they were having an argument about having a safe space and complaining about how women didn't respond to the problems of a man. Oh shoot, Tea Leaves, man, shout out to you, man. Thank you so much, Tea Leaves. Appreciate you, brother. Shout out to you, man. Hey, thank you for the super chat, Tea Leaves. As always, appreciate you. For donating into the masculine mind. But yeah, there was this clip. Do you want me to find it, Doggo, to play it, or are you good?
Yeah, go for it. There's another one.
Let me find this clip. There's this clip, but there was a panel, and there were of men and women, and they were complaining. A lot of the guys were complaining how women don't give men a safe space to talk about their feelings or their problems. and which we were talking about before is on the red pill they always talk about how women will never understand a man's problem, men's problems. So it's for me it's like we can articulate and we can communicate better, but if we're expecting women to fully understand what a man goes through, that's I think that's for me that's not realistic. And wanting a safe space where a woman can fully understand our problems. Is that the link? Let me play it.
It's one of them.
Everything that you don't like to hear is not an attack. Like, you got to remember where the message is coming from. Now I'm speaking to people who are in, committed relationships, and that man really.
The second one is the, I think the clip that you were talking about.
Oh yeah, that's the one.
Couple things.
There we go. Yep. So let me play this clip. We're gonna react to it. It was a panel, and then the men were trying to explain to a woman about a brave space. Let me share.
Couple things.
All right, let me share with everybody so you can see. Share the screen. There we go. There we go. Okay, hopefully you guys can see it. So let's just play this right now, and then you guys can react to it, and then let me know what you guys think on the live chat. All right.
And I'm just go. Ladies, give me grace. I don't feel like men are given that safe space in a relationship to be vulnerable and to be honest without being judged or without it being hijacked about how I made you feel about my honesty. And so what a lot of men learn to do through conditioning with dealing with women over time, even with their mothers, even with their family members, is learn to internalize this, because even if I have a legitimate gripe, I know when I tell you this, you may start to cry, you may start to flip it. And now I'm talking more about how you feel about what I said than what I actually said. And so we always talk about providing safe space for women, and that's a conversation, period, and stick that. But also for men, I think men are yelling and moving towards like, I want to be having a safe space too. Keita, what's up?
I have a rebuttal to that, and I wonder if our rebuttals match.
What's up?
My question to that is now, because you said that you feel like the conversation goes there, is that just what the conversation turns into, and that's how you solve a problem? Because you might say something, and then I respond, and that's how the conversation is going. Hey, I like the fact you opened up to me. I didn't like the way you said it. So can we talk like this, or can we do that?
So in a small example, what I was talking about is what happened just now. Right? Instead of realizing how I felt was legitimate and it was real and it was authentic and it's coming from a place of this is actually happening to me.
What happened?
You said, okay, but maybe it's not happening like this. Maybe it's happening like that. Hold on, let me finish though. I guess what I'm saying is it is that. What happens is most, and I'm generalizations, don't quote me, but most men on an average basis probably word for word cannot out argue you or out discuss you. So what end up happening is, if you are more skillful with words, you're more skillful with twisting, semantics, or whatever, you will take control of this conversation. And this man didn't even get out what he actually wanted to get out. And now
let's see what happened though.
Couple things.
All right.
Yeah. So
what's the political
the
What do you
your mic's just gone
Let's
out.
play that exchange between Governor Christie and Governor.
Okay, is it working now? Is it better now?
Yeah.
Okay.
It might have been on my end. So when there's typically in relationship, when there's a need for a serious conversation, it means that values have clashed. The way that we see life and the values that we think are important to us have clashed. That's this is where a lot of these conversations typically are originated from. The values that your wife or your significant other is now clashing, and there's friction in the relationship, right? So to address these issues, they're always going to be abrasive at first. And what we need is not safety, because safety if it's safety that we need, then we have to be safe all across the board. And this is why I dislike the idea of safe spaces for men. The space needs to be brave. It needs to promote bravery in the sense of, I understand that this is going to be abrasive, that this might cause a little bit of turmoil because this is a value clash. However, I need to be brave enough to express how it is affecting me. I just like the notion of I feel blah, blah, blah. Like, address the issue in an environment that's conducive to being brave about the issue at hand, because it's going to be abrasive at first. This is why communication, and I accuse a lot of people of throwing communication out as a buzzword, because they do not understand where communication truly needs to be applied, because it is in places, in an environment where what you need to express is going to sound a certain way, and it's going to be taken a certain way. We don't just end up being able to communicate our feelings in ways and manners that we're both understanding. At first, it's going to be confronting to a lot of people. Why? Because you're revealing something to the other person that oftentimes get taken as an attack. It's just human nature, and it's because we're talking to a specific set of values this person has practiced. And when we do that, it's typically taken at first as somewhat of an attack. It's human nature, and we develop communication over time. So it's not going to be this magical thing where we just sync up in place and just, oh wow, this is communication. Oh, I fully understand. And oftentimes it needs to be revisited more than one time. So this notion of safe spaces for men, I detest, because it promotes two things. It promotes this idea that communication should be received with understanding at all time, which is not. It's not. And the second thing is, it dulls men's ability to be who they are. If you look out into the world right now, we have catered and tolerated a lot of certain shit because of our idea of safe spaces.
Yeah.
Men have been dulled because they're no longer promoted to be brave and to stand in adversity. They are told your feelings are more valid than you being a man.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, of course, we're emotional beings, but at the end of the day, you are the sacrificial sex. When shit hits the fan, it is you and I that stands in front of the firing squad, and we get to take on life as we do as men. And in order to do that, men must foster this idea of being brave, not safety. We provide safety for women and children. And it is through that provision that we provide for women that we get to, well, the way that we do that is for us as men to be brave. So that's why I detest this notion of being brave. It's relationship abrasive, and it challenges us, especially in the beginning of relationship, because these are two people who've cultivated certain values for the entirety of their life up to that point that might not always meet perfectly in the middle, and it needs to be addressed, right? We no longer have a standard all across communities and societies where we think relationship and marriage looks like this, and this is what we as a society need to adhere to. We are influenced by many different variables nowadays that this is why a lot of relationships don't work, is because we have this idea or this notion that relationship should just work. When two good people get together, relationship should be just a cruise right through. It's a safe space for everyone. It is not. You're still human beings. You still have tendency to be rebellious in certain environments, in certain conditions, right? So I think this is a confusion that we had with competency, and that's why safe space alleviates us from that responsibility that we have to ourselves. I no longer need to be competent. I just need to be accepted for who I am. That's what I take away from this sort of rhetoric.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm valid enough that I need to express whatever it is that I need to express to a certain degree, maybe, but again, communication at its core and typically at first is always going to be abrasive, especially in romantic interest, in romantic relationship. And the reason for that is because we go into relationship wanting to please the other person because of the fear of not investing so much time and so much effort and emotion to this person and have it all go down the drain. So we tend to do things that are typically not the right thing to do in a relationship and what the relationship need. We do things that are going to tiptoe around the issue just because of that fear alone. And I've expressed this on multiple panels. I don't give a damn should life throw me a wrench and my wife leaves me. But it's still important to me that I should cultivate the things that are going to be conducive to that relationship because I believe in the principles that I believe in. It's not 100% just because I do all these things that my relationship are going to be successful. But I'm optimizing for a successful relationship each and every day by practicing the things that are going to be beneficial to it. Should the result be different than what I envision it to be, it's accountability is on me to revise the things that I've done and the decisions I made. Right. So, yeah, look, I will never get this idea and where this idea of safe spaces have come from. And I won't tolerate it for myself as a principal to cultivate, nor will I tolerate it for my children. Be brave. And oftentimes it will shake your foundation of what it means to be who you are, and it will be abrasive. But that's what bravery is. Have courage. Say the things that you need to say and do the things that needs to be done.
Yeah, because when you have a clash of values and you have a disagreement with somebody, that conversation is always going to be unpleasant, right? It's not going to be, the safe space where we're going to have a space where we're going to discuss some things that's going to be very hard to discuss, and nobody's feelings is going to be hurt because we're in a safe space. That's not fucking reality, When you have something to say, especially when it's a disagreement or a clash of values, like you said, it's always going to be an uncomfortable, difficult, unpleasant discussion, and people are going to be defensive, and there's going to be some feelings tied to it, and sometimes it may evolve some conflict between you, but if it's something that's important, you have to address it and you have to solve it, and you can't let that linger on and become detrimental to the stability and the foundation of the relationship. And the word safe space, and also when he mentioned generalities, and most men can't outspeak or outdo or the woman. No, there are men who can do that because they're competent. I think, like you said, they're it's like telling men, it's like categorizing all men. Oh, you know what? We can never be able to have those types of conversations with our women. No, you can if you work on yourself and be able to how you communicate, and also are competent and having the courage to have that conversation. It just seems like when I was watching that, it's like the guys just is we want a specific result without the work, like we talked about before earlier in the podcast. Like we want peace from a woman, but nobody talks about the work of what a man has to do and become to attract that byproduct, which is if peace is what you want in your relationship. It's the same thing when I was watching that video of the way he like we want to be able to express our values and of what's important to us as a man to our woman, but we don't want to deal with any of the repercussions or the consequences of how that conversation is going to go, because we just want it to be safe, right? So that's just the way I took it. Is like, no, what like you mentioned before, it's not you don't want the safe conversation. You want the mastery of the skills you need to navigate that conversation, right? That's why you should be looking for it. That's why you should be advocating for, because that conversation is always going to be difficult. It's always going to be unpleasant. It's going to be a hard conversation, and she might resent you, or she might hate, or she might potentially leave you from that conversation. You don't know, but you got to have the conversation, because because right now at that point of your relationship, if you have to have the conversation, it means that the way things are at this current moment it's not working. That's if you have to have the conversation, that's what it means, right? It means the current status of your relationship at that point with your woman is not working. So that conversation must be had. And there's gonna be and not having that conversation, that relationship is gonna fall apart and ultimately end. So you have to have that conversation. So that's just the way I took that. It just seems like we're feel sorry. It just sounded like for me it's like feel sorry for us as men. Like, oh, it's like a pity party. Oh, I feel sorry. We have something we wanna discuss, and the woman should just sit here and listen and understand and understand us. But it didn't really give any necessary tools of how to navigate that can really help men in those scenarios. And there wasn't. I just didn't see any kind of like you said, like some kind of promotion of bravery for a man to have that discussion. So
the other thing that's problematic, and this is coming into me now, is that what's extremely problematic about this rhetoric is that the leadership then is transferred back into the woman, that we can no longer express the things that we need to express in order to face an issue until a woman provides safe spaces.
Yeah.
Right? My thing is, I don't require my wife, and again, I might have to admit bias in this, extremely biased in my own anecdotal experiences, that I don't require my woman to provide any space. If it's an issue within the relationship that needs to be addressed, trust me that we're going to approach this, although as confronting it may be, what's in front of us is the issue, not you. And we need to approach it together. And you need to trust me and be brave enough that we're going to address this in the hopes that this is going to resolve what could potentially destroy our relationship. And I don't need your permission for that. Right? And people may look at that and interpret it in varying different ways, but I don't need the permission of my wife to address an issue that could potentially destroy the relationship.
Yeah.
I need to take action. I need to make a decision. Look, baby, this is an issue that's going on in our relationship. We need to address it. Trust that I'm not attacking you. I'm trying to resolve this, and I see that it has a potential to destroy what we built together for this long. I understand you might feel a particular way or whatever it is, but the issue is still the issue. Right?
Yeah.
So, and I think again, we have confused a lot of these things with what men truly want and need in relationship, that we are now appealing towards sympathy for men rather than integrity. Those two are not synonymous with each other. I want to be known as a man of integrity, not how people felt when I was going through hardship and how I wanted sympathy from other people.
Yeah.
Right? So I operate under that. I operate under integrity. I don't need my wife to be empathetical towards my plight. No, this is an issue that could potentially destroy us. Let's face it together. And I trust that you understand the man that I am and trust in the body of work that I've put down to allow this process to be what it should be. Yeah. And if you don't, then we don't understand who we are and why we are together. So when I make statements like this, people will often try and associate it with this should be the beginning of the relationship. No, this is consistently throughout the relationship, right from the dating phase. This is a practice right from the get-go, from the vetting. If she is unresponsive or she decides to go against that right from the get-go, that's a sure sign of a man to leave that woman alone. We don't just end up where we are because she's the type of woman that she is. No, we have conditioned and trained ourselves in this relationship to address things in a particular way. And it all starts from the beginning, and which is why she's chosen to be my wife in the first place, right? So don't confuse what I'm speaking on after almost a decade of being together as this is pre-packaged, and men and women just come as such. There's a level of training and consistency that needs to happen prior, and that's what we're speaking to. So that's another part of it. But again, this is the need that we so put in rhetoric of men need safe spaces, men need peace, is a delusional thing to request from anyone, because your life as a man is always going to be chaotic. Be a master of it, rather than rather than someone who should be catered and sympathized for. That's what women. That's what we catered. That's what we provide for women and children.
Do you think a lot of because I do agree that in the beginning phase of the relationship you have to start it. You have to bring that expectation from the beginning. That's and you have to be able to what do you call it? You have to. I think a lot of people they tend to let things go. They tend to respond only when things get to the absolute the worst before they take action. I think most people they don't they'll let things slide because they want to avoid conflict. And I think I see this with a lot of guys, because both for men and women, because if you're going to have a big discussion, those types of conversations, because things have just gone to have taken a wrong turn and things are really bad in your relationship. It's usually, if you trace it back, that it started off with something that was really small, but then over time, because you guys neglected the problem and never resolved it, it's got to the point now it's become a big problem. And I think a lot of guys today tend to not do that in the beginning of the relationship. And do you think a lot of it had ties to the guys because we talked about this before, that especially when it comes to your boundaries as a man, when it comes to your values as a man, and making sure that you don't you get the respect that you want from a woman, and it's just not disrespecting you. You got to be confident that in your ability to walk away from the woman. And I think I think this point from a lot of guys, because I've heard from a lot of guys, well, I don't really have to address those issues, and my relationship is okay. I don't have to really have those hard conversations. And I guess my pushback with those types of people would be like, well, are you in the relationship you want, or are you tolerating your relationship? Because you could be in if you're tolerating things, then yeah, you won't need to have that big discussion. You can avoid and neglect those hard conversations and just tolerate it. But if you're but the thing is about toleration, that for me, if you're tolerating something that you disagree with, or that doesn't align with your value, or is hurting you, or is disrespecting you as a person, then that's a time. Then it's a ticking time bomb to me, because eventually there will be a point of time that you just you're not gonna be able to tolerate abuse, not abuse, but disrespect for long periods of time, and that's only gonna encourage the other person to constantly engage that behavior and do it more. So I think there are a lot of people who are tolerating, and I think there's a lot of guys out there right now that they're tolerating a situation because they don't want to walk away from the relationship, especially in the beginning stage of the relationship, in the dating phase, when you're not really committed, or you're not really in the long-term relationship, when you still have that ability to walk away from that woman. So that's the piece I wanted to add, like how important it is for as a man to walk away. And I think I want to ask your opinion for a lot of guys out there. Well, I mean, how can I just walk away from a woman, especially if that's a woman I was trying to pursue?
By getting away from this idea that we've subconsciously conditioned ourselves that there is this thing called the one.
Yeah.
And I've shared this in a couple of our earlier podcasts, is that my wife and I never had the what do you call it, the butterfly stages of the relationship that most people go through.
Yeah.
I forgot the term that people use to qualify that stage, but we've never gone through it, right? So one of the earlier things that I gave my wife, that she passed with flying colors and helped me in the decision of her being the woman that she is in position that she is now, is I was extremely ambitious at the time, and my time was valuable to me. And whatever and whoever I invested my time in meant that that thing was important, or that person was important. And I used to say to her, don't blow up my phone. I don't need to be distracted. These are things that I'm currently focusing on. And the weekend when I have free time, that's the time for me to see you. I had to say it once. I only said it once. And she did. She complied with that. And then there was other things that was put in motion through the dating phase that made that first test just I should say, supported that all the way through, and she was consistent with that. So this idea that, and unfortunately, a lot of men fall prey to this because of this idea that rejections is something that we should fear. That men fall prey into this idea that once I get a woman, then I need to hold on to that thing with whatever I got in whatever ways that I need to. And that question actually touches on a few things we've already mentioned before. It is not that I was able to acquire more women than the average man. It was that I did not fear rejection. And I approach women in the way of arrogance, in the sense of, I know the qualities I possess will be conducive to a husband and a father one day. And that alone gave me the confidence in approaching women, being rejected, and going through a multitude of different characters and being saying, that's all right, that's fine. Until I met my wife, right? So, not that I possess this extraordinary ability, it's just I'm arrogant.
Yeah.
I am the man that stands on principle, or whatever it is. I am arrogant to the degree that I get to pick the woman, not the other way around. And that woman should be in the caliber and standards that I want, that I know is going to be conducive to a long-term relationship and a mother. And I trust that the decision I make will be the one that's going to be beneficial to me. And if it's not, I trust myself to make the decision to walk away from that relationship. And it goes back to accountability in the sense, I made a decision on my wife, understanding that it's not purely because of her, it's because I made it. It's my decision, and I understand my decision is derived from multitude of things.
I also want to highlight. Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go finish what you were going to say. Finish, yeah.
I think that one ability of trusting yourself to make a decision and back it 110% is, I think, gave me whatever confidence it is that I had.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a body of work, right? Going through rejections and rebuilding your standards, to a point where your preferences no longer just becomes all over the place. It's, okay, I tried this preference, didn't work out. Okay, maybe stop that. Here's another preferences. I went down through that list of preference, and at the end of it, it became a standard for me. And that standard then became my wife. And I trust that the decision I made with her is the decision that's going to be conducive to my relationship.
Okay. I see tea leaves. I see you in the back. I'm about to add you in, tea leaves. Thank you for jumping on as a public guest.
Yo, it's good.
Hey, what's going on, brother?
How y'all doing?
Doing good, man.
I think I agree with a lot of the things that you guys are saying. Idealistically, I think there's just always some context missing, and I can understand kind of the stream that y'all trying to have. Focus more on the men. Let's not try to bring up women. That's my assumption. I'm not going to say that's what the concept of the show is, but I think that when you talk about facing rejection, I think times have changed, and I'm an example of those times changing. My personality type, I do not have a problem with rejection, but The problem or the issue is the type of approach, right? For example, cold approach. I realized that cold approach is not something that suits me or benefits me at all because of my personality type. So I had to create a way to circumvent that problem, because I'd never had an issue getting numbers, things of that nature, right? But I could never close a deal. I could never finish out whatever was going on. Uh, but I think it was a personality issue. It just wasn't a match, right? So what I decided to do instead of cold approaching was change the environment of which I tried to speak to women, which was instead of me just going to the store, gas station, mall, things of that nature, seeing someone that I liked and then tried to approach them, um, not being afraid of the rejection, but just knowing that it's not conducive to who I am and what type of person that I am. I decided to find a hobby that I love, which is skating, which is roller skating at rinks and stuff like that, and pursue women that way, which is the idea is that you already have something in common, which is obviously skating, and then you get to spend more time around that person and see them in an environment around other people and see how they interact and see how they go about things, right? So as I begin to talk to this woman and get to know them a little bit more and they get to know me, things are a little bit more set, are a little bit more easier to diagnose. I can understand if this woman really likes me or if it's just something that is a pass by, right? And I could still come on to that woman and be rejected, but at least I'm doing it in a situation that suits me personally, because I don't have game, I don't have the gift of gab, and it's kind of an awkward situation. So that's where the context I would think would come in that I'm trying to add is that times have changed. Yes, I do think most men have a fear of rejection, but I do not think it's because they are afraid to talk to women. I think that it's in comparison, or they have an issue with ways in which they're being told to pursue said woman. Oh, just go talk to that woman. If you see her and you like her, say something. I don't think every man in 2023/2024 is at that level right now. A lot of men. Let me say most men. So that's
that's a great add-on. I want to bring it to an earlier point that we made in regards to self-improvement. And self-improvement to us, well, personally, fundamentally means decision-making and one's ability to go back and analyze the history of decision-making and the outcome that you had and either refine or optimize for those decisions, right? So that's where you're absolutely right. If you find that you keep making a certain type of decision and it's not, the outcome that you keep receiving is the same over and over again, there's two ways of doing things. You either figure out how to make better decisions in that environment or remove yourself and try another environment. So absolutely. So it's not a run into a brick wall until it breaks. It's if you keep running into a brick wall, maybe change your direction or jump over the wall. So it's solutions that you mentioned. These are the things that I hope this podcast, which is titled Masculine Mind, promotes, rather than this is the approach that I'm going to do. It's yielding me the same result over and over again, but I'm going to keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it until I turn 60 and I look at my life and go, why the fuck did I keep making the same decision all the damn time, right? So it's that ability for us to not only make a decision but also reanalyze a lot of the decisions we made in the past and the outcome that we've had, and figuring out different solutions for the things that we want to optimize for.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, Will, if you wanted to go, but I also wanted to touch on another topic y'all were talking about. If you don't have anything to say.
Now, the only thing I would say is That's why for me, because like you said, you're in this generation. The dating times of today's modern times are a lot different, and that's why for me, that accountability is a great core principle, because it doesn't matter what generation you're in. If you're accountable for your decisions, if you analyze when things don't work out and figure out to make some changes. I think one of the problems I do see, whether it's the red pill or manosphere, sometimes they'll just stick to one thing and not being able to adjust to today's dating market, or they'll keep preaching the same either strategy or red pill content or red pill advice over and over, but not understanding that things have changed today. So I commend you for making changes, but that's why I like accountability is always going to work, because whether times change, society change, the generation changes, or whatever. If you're accountable for your decisions as a man, you're always going to look back. Okay, this works, great. I'm going to keep doing this. Oh, this doesn't work. This okay. I'm gonna avoid doing this and put myself in a different circumstance. But what I do see for a lot of times, especially the generation of men today, is, and I'm sure you've heard it. It's no longer like the past no more. Modern women are no longer this no more. Why can't it go back to the past? Why can't women be more feminine or be more approachable? For me, that's more blaming and becoming a victim. Like, we have to accept the facts of, it's no longer the past. Dating is no longer the past. There's some obstacles that we're facing today that a lot of the men never had to face. There's a lot of women out there that might record you if you approach her, even if you do it respectfully. There's some women that might record you and put it online and put it on blast and make you seem like a creep, I mean, we see it all the time on social media. So things have changed, and I think as men, like, we have to accept that reality and adjust to it, which still revolves around accountability. But I think there are a lot of guys out there that they're just like they're wishing that they're not living in the reality, but they're wishing things can go back in the past, which just for me is that's not being accountable for your current situation of how things are today. Like, we have to accept it and then make the adjustments, which you did, which is what I commend you for doing.
Yeah, I did adjust, but it doesn't make me more successful than I have been in the past. I would say that my results of picking or discernment have improved. But I don't think that I've gotten the outcomes that I want. And that's why I wanted to make sure I came in with the proper mindset, because I don't want to disagree with anything you guys are saying. I think that because all the changes that I've made in my life has been because of the red pill and the manosphere and their talking points and the things that they've done. I've gained confidence. I've gained an understanding of my value. I'm making more money than I've ever made before. And it's all because of that space. But I think the problem is that sometimes we come into conflict because we're really dealing in uncharted waters. Like, if you look at the statistics,
Yeah, that's true.
women are making more money than they've ever made in history. And we've had countless historical moments when men are the head and men are making the most money and men are doing all these things, and how things may play out despite whatever time period it is. But we're in a time period where we've never had any historical data of women ever being in this position. I wouldn't call it a power. Maybe they have more leverage. Maybe they have more influence. I don't know what word I want to call, but we're really in uncharted waters. And the things that some of the red pill people say, it's kind of like hit or miss, because a lot of it has traditional, mindsets and masculinity in it, but it also is requiring you to change to the framework of what today's modern society is, and you can't have both. You have to you kind of have to pick a side. And I see what side you guys are expressing, and I don't disagree, but it's just tough out here. It's tough out here. I'm 31. I'm 30. I'll be 31 in a couple weeks. So I'm just letting y'all know where my age range is,
You're older than me by maybe a year. I've just turned 30. So personally, I don't have a problem with Red Pill and the way that they are giving a lot of advices. My problem comes down to what are the values that these men adhere to? And oftentimes what they associate value to is the outcome of certain values and principles that you as a man would practice and be consistent in, right? So the money, the wealth, the ways with women, those are outcomes. So what are the actual values that Red Pill preach under? And that needs to be something that has to be discussed, because it seems like we focus too much on the outcome rather than what values should men adhere to, because not all men are going to be the top 1% earners. Not all men are going to have a multitude of women. So we have to, what are the things that's been proven over time, even in the changing landscape of how women are, that has proven to stay steadfast and immovable in the ways that we as men conduct ourselves, and the byproduct of those things. So just to give you at least a bit of a background on why Masculine Mind, this specific portion of Will's show or schedule or show has come into fruition, was this is more or less a response to contextualize the things that the Red Pill and the Manosphere seems to be speaking on. So although we may oppose some Red Pill ideologies, what we want to bring forward is this: there seems to be this focus on the outcome rather than what are the principles, what are the values, what are the things that are actually foundational to these ideas and these outcome at first, right? So it's and again, I agree, Red Pill has done a lot of good in terms of revealing to men the landscape in which they battle in. The unfortunate part is, what are the things that we consistently practice that derives value from? I don't derive value from my financial successes. I derive value from the consistency of my accountability, my discipline, my resilience, right? And as a byproduct of that, my life may seem a little bit more peaceful, a little bit more fulfillment in it, but it's not, because those are the things I seek. I seek to practice consistency in these values that we as men try and adhere to.
Yeah, one of I agree as well with when it comes to the Red Pill content. You know, there's a lot of good. There's a lot of good of the Red Pill content, but based on what I see, sometimes I think a lot of the Red Pill content that's given to men is usually more for the top 1% men. It's not for the average guys, right? Go out there, you know, flying on jets, having multiple women, having money, success, fame, status. We all, tea leaves, Palafesta, we all know that 99% of the guys who are watching this content are never going to achieve that in their life. So that content doesn't really help the average guy. You know, the average guy has a 9-to-5 job, just wants to find at least one woman that likes him, and just be with her for the rest of his life. That's the average guy's dream. So a lot of the content we see in the Masculine Mind is our response. Our response to, okay, like how can we? Because I think it doesn't equip the average guy to find the results he want. It's that content that we see, and I understand social media, that it's polarizing, it's attractive. That's how you get views. It's the things that, you know, as men we're wired to watch. And we see guys with multiple women and success, we're gonna watch it, you know. So, but from my standpoint is like, and this me and Palafesta, okay, like how can we have a conversation on the things that can really help the average guy? What if you want that? I'm not knocking that lifestyle. As a man, if you want that 1% life that you see and be a top G, hey, go do your thing and be successful. But also we can also, like, how can we formulate a solution so it doesn't matter if it's the average guy or if it's the 1% man, it's still gonna be able to help him in their life to find the results we want. And I think me and Palafesta, based on our conversation, we realize that it's not about the outcome, it's about the value of a man. What is the principle he lives by? and what are the values that he lives by, and what is the foundation of him as a man. What if he wants to be the average man, or what if he wants to be a top G and become that 1% man? And I think we talked about before the 3 tenets of masculinity: the accountability, resiliency, and discipline. So if an average man practices those principles, those values, if he's accountable, if he's resilient, he's disciplined, he will achieve the outcomes that he wants in his life. What if he wants an average life, a 9 to 5, and just wants to get one good woman and be content with that and live a good life with his kids? Or what if he wants to take it to the next level and become that 1%? And I think that's the conversation that's missing from the red pill, and why we kind of had this Mastermind scheduled show is we just realized a lot of the things that they see on red pill, it only helps the top percent guys, or the top 20% guys that who are getting an attraction, attention from all women. What about the average guy that gets no validation or gets no attention from women? What does he do? Besides watching red pill content and being on the live chat and super chatting all the time, where is the conversation that's going to be more tailored for them? And I think as a red pill space, if we can more focus on because the outcome is the outcome. Because if you do what you have to do as a man, the outcome is going to come. You're going to attract the outcome you want. But let's have a conversation of the values and the principles that's going to help all men, right? Which is the average guy. And I think that's how me and Bob, it's how we came to starting this show, because we just realized that it's the red pill. If you look at the red pill, the content's not tailored for the average guy. It's tailored for the top percent guy. So we need to have a conversation of what are the things that we can that can apply to all men, and so they can achieve the outcome they want, regardless of where he's at, his situation, whether it's in the West, whether it's Saudi Arabia, whether it's France, because the red pill is available to everybody in the world. So what can we talk about with certain principles, certain values that any man, regardless of ethnicity, skin color, where is it, third world country, first world country, he can apply that to his life, and he can get results and outcomes that he wants. And I think the current status of what we see on the red pill is only going to help the top 20% guy. It doesn't really help the 80% guy, or the average guy who just wants one good woman and wants to start a family. That's just my piece to it.
I think where red pill goes wrong, from someone who's a advocate, I'm an avid supporter of it, is they don't make distinctions. They mix in a lot of the 1% conversations in with the average guy conversations.
Yeah.
If you want to, there are some channels that focus on the average man, but those channels are smaller channels. They don't get as much visibility because I think the idea of average is plaguing everybody right now. I don't think anybody wants to accept or wants to be average, so that's one idea. I think another thing that happens is that people in the red pill try to there are some red pill people that say, or red pill content creators that say, hey, this content is not supposed to be consumed like you consume everyday TV. There's levels to this. You need to be able to graduate up out of this red pill rage, red pill kind of, once you're introduced to the truth, you have to evolve, level up, or understand that if I need to not only think about what a woman is doing, but I need to look within. But the other content creators only focus on their major focus is the women, but then when they have like smaller discussions, maybe they have, I'll speak on like FNF, like they have on their single, when they don't have the ladies on, they focus on money, or they focus on getting people to understand that gym is important. Like they are playing a game of trying to put the cake out and then trying to shove the medicine inside of the cake. But I think it doesn't work because the cake is just too good and it's overpowering. It's too sweet. They're not gonna listen to it. They're just going to continue to look at women and say, "Oh, women are this." They need to be able to evolve out of that and say, "Okay, now that I understand what women are doing, it shouldn't affect me anymore. Now I need to be able to work on myself and grow within myself and understand." You guys spoke on something so true, was managing the storm. Being an expert, I think Paulo Fesso said it. I'm sorry if I'm not quoting you properly, but it's managing the chaos, being a master at managing the storm. You need to be able to manage the things that you see and not just uh you know, either complain about it or not accept it for what it is or ask for a quote unquote safe space. You have to do that. There are some people that do, and then there's some people that take advantage of those people who want to just see a cat fight between a red pill man and a woman, So
Yeah, I think, and this is where I think Will and I share the same sentiment. Is we will never knock the content creation part of this whole thing, right? And oftentimes, a lot more people are attracted to the drama that comes with red pill and women being delusional. So I think, and this is probably a detriment to Will's show, is that we're trying to attack not only the skill sets required for a man to be successful to the extent that he needs it to be with women, but to also have the competency to maintain a long and healthy relationship, the ones that we all desire when we do get into romantic relationships, right? So those things, and I can understand completely, never will knock the hustle from people who decide to go that route. But these conversations, and I often accuse a lot of married people in the space for offering bad advice. So my involvement in a lot of these spaces is I try and give my input in the sense of a lot of the things that Red Pill speak on is true. And I practice those things. I just don't recognize it as red pill. I recognize those as the skills necessary for a man and operate as such. My relationship would be qualified under what most people tend to refer to as tradition. Because I pay 100% for my wife and my children. I make 100% of the decision that is important to this family. And my wife stays at home and caters to our children and to the house and to all those things. And it's abrasive to a lot of women to hear that. Oh, your wife is... No, we have cultivated a environment where we recognize what makes us valuable as people in this relationship, which is I'm a man, provider, protect. She's a woman, she's a nurturer and a homemaker. And we optimize for those positions. And our value is derived from that, not in the way that we compete with each other. And the mastery of the storm needs to be a conversation with a lot of men. Because fuck safe spaces. Be a master of storms. Your life is going to be chaotic. Don't allow a woman to add to that chaos.
Yeah. And also, the one thing for me, because there's a lot of inconsistency when it comes to what I see under Red Pill space. It's like the things they preach, that they'll preach one thing, but then when you look at the content creator themselves, they don't actually practice the very principles and values that they preach. One thing that I always hear from the Red Pill space, we know women, men are more rational. We're very logical. Women are more emotional, and they always shame the women who come on the panels. Oh, you guys are always emotional. But then when you watch the very same men on certain panels, on certain shows, they're the ones reacting very emotional and being delusional at times. So it's confusing, right? I can only imagine the young men who are watching that show of how to be able to gain some kind of foundation or some kind of strong value and principle when the people that they look up to or the content creator they look up to doesn't really practice it or it's not consistent with it. So I think, for us, that's just we're like I don't knock the red pill space. There's a lot of good has been done. There's a proof. There's a lot of men that has affected their lives on a positive way. But I think also is like what like me and Balaveza have talked about before. We always have to look back and redefine and refine our decisions so we can self-improve. And I think in the red pill space, there's not. I don't know if because everybody's friends with each other. A lot of the content creators are friends with each other. But nobody's really having the conversation to call each other out and to hold each other accountable. But there are a lot of inconsistencies I see that the very things, the very principles and values that they preach to these men to uphold, they don't practice it themselves. And I think that's just one thing I do notice. I do notice. On the red pill space, that the very things that they often shame and they criticize a woman for are the very same behaviors that they end up acting and behaving the same way on the shows, on the panel. And then when they do get exposed and when they do get reviewed by somebody, instead of taking accountability, as we should as men, they just avoid the whole thing and try to blame somebody else or try to blame the thing. So it's I think it's got to be really hard for these young guys who kind of grasp those principles if we can't really see a lot of these guys really staying consistent with it, that they're consistent with it with their own show, they're consistent with it whether they go on a different panel on somebody else's show, they're also consistent with it with their own personal lives, because a lot of guys, because sometimes we'll see some current content creators that they act this way online, but then something comes out that in real life behind closed doors, they don't really act that way or they don't really behave that way. So I don't know. It's a conversation that we don't see. So the whole purpose of the Masculine Mind was having a conversation of things that nobody's having on the red pill space. Nobody's having these conversations. It's a conversation that's avoided. People don't want to talk about it, whether it's because of view count, because it's not the one that tracks the most views, or you don't want to hurt somebody else's feelings, or not a content creator, or you don't want to, you want to keep a relationship with everybody else because you want to, it's the things that we saw in the red pill space that nobody's having that conversation, and me and him just wanted to start the Masculine Mind to have that conversation, just start it. And bring it to light. So at the end of the day, we can find some kind of solution that can generally help all men, but most importantly, that can generally help the average guy. The average guy. If there are any average guys watching this, round right now. But I see Milagros in the live chat, and I see, is that mediocre tutorial reviews? Is that MTR? I don't know. I don't know if that's
that looks like the real MTR. Yeah.
Is that really him? Is that really MTR? Well, if that's you, MTR, I'm a man. Shout out to you, man.
He said put the camera higher. Yeah, that's MTR. Yeah, I know him a little bit. So.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Oh, shout out to MTR, man. Thank you for coming on, being on the live chat. I watch a lot of his content. He got some fire dope content.
He's actually the one. He was actually the one I was mentioning when he talks about elevating past the red pill. Get introduced to it. He spoke about it. He speaks a lot of positivity into men. But there's an elevation that needs to happen after you're introduced to the truth. And I think he preaches on people getting stuck on that level sometimes. So. But you got to really watch his content to really see that, because he's kind of the review page that puts the medicine inside of the cake, but the actual medicine that he puts in is very potent. It actually works. It's a good message, and it can help any man on any level. So shout out to MTR, man. Facts.
Yeah, that's very true. I think when men recognize that red pill is to reveal, at least, and provide some clarity for you in order for you to move forward in life, not a thing to be stuck on. And that's I agree with that. I wholeheartedly agree. It is to provide at least clarity and from then on, you're left on your own to devise up the outcome you want and to prepare for it. So I think I can appreciate people who make content around that. The other side of the content that I personally found a bit of frustration from is that there aren't men who can stand on what we identify as red pill ideology that carries it over to relationship and be consistent with the same message and ideology all throughout the entirety of their relationship and is successful with it, right? I would have thought Rolo would have been one of those men, but as I reviewed a lot of his content, it doesn't sound like that he is. And I might be somewhat biased in terms of my analysis of his stuff, but I haven't found anyone who provides the traditional man, red pill, somewhat ideology aligned, is in marriage and still has those principles and is somewhat successful. So
one thing that I heard that kind of resonated with me was that there was a small content creator who focuses on the average man, or non-select, as he would like to say, and he said one of the reasons why he didn't get married is because the women he wanted didn't want him, and the women that wanted him, he didn't want them, right? And I've struggled with that same concept as well, right? Because it's like you're in a vortex of just not knowing what to even work on. It's like men want to be a part of, average men want a woman and want to be with a woman and want to, be in a relationship for so long and want it bad that sometimes they're willing to do a lot of things that compromise their integrity, compromise who they are, their manhood, in order to pursue that particular woman. But then when you have a woman that wants you, they don't necessarily fit the idea of what you want. And the reason why I bring up that point is because a lot of men don't know what they're doing, or don't know how to even internalize being in a positive relationship or a productive relationship with someone that they think is not for them, but they really are for them. They don't know how to identify it. They chase things that aren't in their atmosphere or their lane, because nobody's been able to get them to understand, like, hey, you are not that guy. At least you're not that guy yet. And most times, if you're not that guy now, you won't ever be that guy. So understand where your range is and fall within that. So that idea of men going after women that don't want them, but there are some women that want them, they just don't want those women. It's real. It's a real thing, and it's another concept of masculinity that I think we need to touch on, because we need to be able to realize who is for us and who is not.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing also I do see, and the topic we're discussing tonight is why is masculinity conditional modern men? Because a lot of the things that we see on the red pill, right, the advice or the things that tell men is the exact same thing what the women are doing that's hurting them in their ability to attract the outcome they want in a partner. So example would be one of the biggest criticism I always hear a lot of the red pill space, especially when it comes to the modern women, is modern women are conditionally feminine, right? They only pick and choose when they want to be feminine. All right. But at the same time, we're teaching men to pick and choose when they want to be masculine, especially when it comes to, paying for a date or providing, protecting her. You know what? Go out there and smash 50 chicks and then when you find that good woman, and then you can become that masculine man, masculine good man for her. So for me, it's not conducive. If you want to be a feminine woman, if we're gonna tell a woman you have to be feminine, then that woman has to be feminine at all times. So as a man, if we're gonna so-called call ourselves masculine men, then we have to move as masculine men at all times, and especially in how we treat all women. So it just, for me, is a lot of the things that I just see that we often criticize modern women for, but if we do it, if we do it as men, then it's not a problem for us. But then we'll criticize a woman even though we're doing the exact same thing. If that makes sense, it's like. Go ahead.
I'm gonna address what you said, Tea Leaves. This idea that we as men have, as there are women we want and then there are women we don't want. To me, I think we've conditioned ourselves to think that women are the prize, and then we put a metric of this is more worthy versus this is unworthy, and we can't quite figure out why a particular type of woman is worthy, and it's confusing a lot of men. It's confusing a lot of men in that regards, and this is where, as you were saying, as you came in, contextualizing the things that we speak on is very important, which is why I have simplified in a lot of our conversation the things that I have gathered from men over the last 10 years in what they truly want out of women. 2 things: sexually attracted to that woman, and they can see themselves sleeping with that woman for the entirety of their life, and she has to be coachable. Those 2 things are the foundation to a woman that can be molded in ways that will be conducive to a man and what he needs out of that woman. And I think when we have these conversations, go ahead.
What if that woman that you just described has 2 kids or 4 kids? She's a single mother. Because that's what I'm struggling with. I have women in my life right now that I think they would be great, or I wouldn't call them great, but I think they're making the changes and the strides, and I can see them to be better women, to be more productive towards or with a man, but they have this extra on it. And I talked about in the chat earlier about fear, and I'm willing to be transparent with you guys. I'm afraid. I'm afraid to even dive down that rabbit hole with this woman, because the topic is, or not your topic, but the topic around the space is
single moms. Yeah.
Don't date single mothers under any circumstance. But I see her doing the work. I mean, it's tough. So that's why I'm very sorry that I cut you off, but I just wanted to interject that point in there. Yeah.
You're fine. So my background is that I was adopted out to my auntie. So, and not only that, my mother passed away when I was 6, and so I saw my old man through that experience. So through that lens, my preference then became for women. Yeah, my preference became for women was just any woman can get it, pretty much. My wife had a child prior to being with me, and her predicament that was sort of transpired in her relationship, and why she separated was he was abusive. So, and I had this conversation with Will in the regards of, I know that as soon as I mention my predicament with my wife, people would disqualify me from ever having these conversations. But my then challenge to a lot of people is, I dated in the most liberal country, considered one of the most liberal country in the world, where the women are typically seen as the matriarch of relationship. I'm in a culture where a vast majority of the modern day families are women are the matriarch, and not only that, she's a single mother. And we had a podcast where she came on, and I would advise anyone to go and watch that podcast if you're ever interested to see what the dynamic is of this woman with me. She is a lot more feminine than a lot of women that most would qualify as the one, right? So, and this is where accountability comes back to, and the idea of where accountability comes in is, I picked this woman based on qualities, and although the child is in there, I have gone into the relationship understanding she's going to be a lot more difficult than a woman without a child, and I accept those conditions. And whatever the outcome may be, I will stand hand on heart and say, I picked a single mother and I did not do the things required of me as a man in order to optimize that relationship. I'll be the first one to admit it. However, it is proven otherwise, and those are the consistency in terms of competency. So single mothers, unfortunately, in the West have adopted the strong and independent mindset, and we as men keep allowing them to spill that bullshit all over the place. All over the place. Right. And that was one of the earlier challenges that I had to. She had great qualities, but those little things in pop culture does make itself into a lot of these women. And when I saw that in our dating phase, I said, no, you're not. You are not going to behave in this way. And if I'm the man that you want to be with, I'm interested in you, then you have to realign yourself in this way. So I dictate the standards. And that's where I differ in a lot of things because of my anecdotal experience. That's the only difference. I, however, won't advise anyone to go after single mothers like they're the same as single women without children. They bring a set of challenges that are going to be extremely difficult to men who don't accept that.
My piece to that, tea leaves.
Look, Will, you see MTR in the chat? I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's like, God damn it.
My personality, so he knows me, bro.
Yeah, he's like, God damn it, don't do it. Don't do it. No, I want to make it clear. I would never, like Balafissa said, we would never advise a man to go out there and date a single a mother as his, that's their primary or first choice, right? But I think I would say is what I think the problem with a lot of men is, like Balafessa said, that dating a single mother is not the same as dating a woman with no children. And I think a lot of times men who date a single mom, they're expecting the same relationship when they're dating a woman with no kids, when in reality, it's completely more different. It's more difficult. There's going to be a lot more responsibility. And I think as a man, because we talk about accountability on this podcast, if that's the choice you're going to make as a man, then I think to get the best outcome that you want, you have to make sure that you're at the type of man that you are and the type of level of your life that you can handle all the challenges that comes with a single mom. And I think what happens is, if a lot of guys is they date up a single mom, 2 or 3 kids, he's not in a position that he can financially provide for all those kids. He's not ready for that responsibility to be a father. He's not ready to, in his confidence, masculinity, to walk in that relationship and let that woman know, like, I'm the man, I'm the leader. I'm going to be the disciplinary, authoritative figure in this relationship, even though they're not my kids. All these things that you have to do to make sure that you can create a structure or in that relationship with that single mom, so that way it benefits you and you're getting what you want. And I think a lot of guys are not doing that. They're just going into the single mom, and they haven't really put in that work or done those things. And even though that relationship is going to create more complexities, a lot difficult, more challenges, and they're not ready for it, and it ends up failing. So and they end up becoming a statistic, and they end up becoming on one of MTR's videos that he reacts to.
What I like about what you said is you're thinking more inside instead of thinking about what the woman can do to you. You're thinking about what
you dictate
it would mean to you.
Exactly. You're the one. I think that you dictate that, right? Because you're the man. You're the one that is going to bring more value, because she's the one looking for a relationship, and she understands it's harder to lock down a man. So I think, like I said, I would never advocate for a man. I will always tell men, go find a woman that has no children and have your own kids with that woman. But if you as a man, for some reason, you want to go against that advice, what I would say to that man is just to be accountable. Really understand what you're doing in a situation you're going into, and then I think a lot of guys don't really understand what they're getting themselves into, and also prepare themselves for it. So all those challenges and statistics and all the issues that we see that the Red Pill content space talks about, a lot of about single moms. Just make sure you have a strategy, a solution, and the tools you have. Like we talked about before, Balafessa, become a master of the chaos. So you understand that the chaos that the single mom's going to bring you is going to be very chaotic, a lot of challenges, a lot of problems. Make sure you have the skill set to navigate all of that, and not just go into that hoping for it to work when you already know statistically it's not going to work out for you most of the time. So
I don't got no chaos in my life right now, so I don't know. I don't want to bring no extra. I don't want none of that.
Yeah.
Nope. My life
Yeah.
is pretty good right now.
yeah.
Yeah. In I actually, in that podcast, I actually advised for men to not go after single mothers. And the reason being is because a lot of men are not predisposed to the idea of a man raising his non-biological children or raising non-biological children. I was. That's where my bias is. And I acknowledge that, is that my father is a great man, and the love and the care that he took in order to instill values and principles in me had me predisposed to that sort of, I guess, outlook on life. It still didn't mean that it's going to be. Let me scrap that. I advise against it unless you're already predisposed to the experience and you have no issue looking at life in that manner. If you're someone who's just in a good parent household or only seeing that sort of environment, stick with single women with no children because you're more optimized in the way that you look at life for those positions. I think we oftentimes as men sort of give in to our lust and give in to our kink of, laying down with a woman who's already had children or older women, and then get ourselves trapped in these relationship where it's not conducive to us at all. So unless you understand it and have anecdotal experience from it, avoid it. And women have to deal with it. You will have to deal with the decisions that you make to choose a man that had values that weren't conducive to you or your safety. And as harsh as that sounds, that's on you. You have power in 2023 to choose for yourself, right? And this is where I think when we have these conversations, people often confuse that I'm an advocate for people dating single mothers. No, I'm not. I'm giving you the reality of it. Should you decide as a man to pursue it, I advise against it. But should you choose to go after women like that, I can at least provide you with some level of guidance if that's where it is. No one is owed nothing. Just let's be perfectly clear. And as much as women like to be emotional and think, oh, but I'm still a good woman and all of that. Yes, but you still made a decision that was an extreme detriment to you and your potential to find a good, strong mate. You have to accept that.
Yeah. And all I was doing when I asked you that question was making a distinction, right? Between the woman that doesn't have kids versus the woman that does have kids, who they may be doing similar things. Even though their situation is not the same, it could be that both women are good, they're doing something that is positive, things of that nature. But again, it was just me pointing out the distinction that needs to be made between those situations, because it's so easy to think, like, I wouldn't say, well, I'll use myself as an example. I'm a person that appreciates doing like if you've had traumas or anything that is detrimental to your mental health, I'm about going and doing the work, which means for me, like getting closure to those traumatic experiences, whether that's closure in a sense of therapy, talking to whoever was in the situation, or finding some form of forgiveness, not forgetting, but just forgiveness for whatever the situation was. I respect that, because that means that you're actually going out and actively trying to fix your issues instead of just blaming the person that was involved for what happened. So that's when I see that, I respect it, but I have to make sure that I make the discernment to separate the respect that I have for the reality of the situation, right? Make sure I separate those two things. So that was the only reason I brought that up, to make that distinction.
And also, one thing I do respect about Balafessa, which is what I don't see in the red pill space, because Balafessa is very accountable to himself and the decision. So I know a lot of people, a lot of men may disqualify his opinions because he is with a single mom, But at the end of the day, what I respect about Balafessa is like he's accountable to his situation, but he's also accountable to how it is in the real world. He understands that, look, my situation, I ended up with a single mom, but at the same time, I'm not going to advocate and tell a man to go date a single mom just because I'm with a single mom. He still understands the statistics, the reality, and the disadvantages of being of a single mom. But oftentimes, I do see a lot of times in the red pill space, the guys who, we've seen content creators who preach it, don't date single moms, and it comes out later they're dating and marrying a single mom, right? So they're not like the accountability is there. So Balafessa is accountable. Look, I dated, I married a single mom. We have a beautiful life, beautiful children. But if you're gonna ask me for a young man for advice of who I should choose, he's gonna be accountable and give him the real, honest reality. Look, don't do it, don't do it. Even though I'm an exemption, or I'm the exemption, but not the rule. But we can be accountable on this podcast that we can tell men, hey, like, go out there and don't date a single mom. Find a woman with no children. But just in case, if there is a few men out there that want to try those waters, then Balafessa can give him his experience with the single mom that he's with. That's something I've never seen on the red pill space, and I think it's needed, because the reality is, I think there's going to be a lot more guys end up dating single moms because of the lack of options. That's just the reality. Is the average guy, because of the lack of options, because most of the women are going with the top 20% of men. A lot of guys are going to end up dating single moms. So even though we don't advocate for it, so at least we can have a space where, if they do decide to go that route, even though we tell them not to go there, can we at least give them some kind of content or creation about doing it? But on the red pill is, if you end up dating a single mom, you're gonna be shamed, and people are gonna lose respect for you. And I think it's something that we have to be realistic. Like, some guys are going to end up single moms, and also, like, there are good women out there who are single moms, but it's a tough situation to navigate. So instead of trying to like shame those guys, let's actually just give them the tools so they can use and go with that situation. But he still has to be accountable for his own choices, and he needs to understand that he's going to go in a situation, the likelihood of that not working out is going to be high. But a lot of guys will take those chances themselves in their own lives. So I think sometimes it's very extreme in the red pill space. It's like, you don't ever date single moms, which I understand and I agree with, but we also need to understand some average guys are going to do it anyway. So can we at least have a conversation, at least give them something to work with and to help them navigate that, so that way there is a small chance of possibility of success, even though it's small, but it is possible, instead of just be like, oh, you did it, oh, it's over for you. It's over for you. So that's why I appreciate Balafessa. We have a very different perspective of how we navigate it, because the red pill is either this or this. There's no in between. It's black and white. There's no gray area, and I think there's a lot of gray area conversations not being had, and people are avoiding that conversation because they don't want to be labeled as a simp, or you being with a single mom, or we lose respect for you, or whatever. No, I think we just need to have a conversation for everything and figure out a solution. So, but yeah, that's what's different about us. Like we don't advocate for the single mom podcast. And I do, look, I would say this: go watch that interview I did with Balafessa. I promise you, if you watch that podcast he did with his wife when she came on, you can just look at the way that she responds to him when he speaks, the femininity, the submission. it's all there. So I used to be 100% never date a single mom. Now I'm at 99%. because of watching, because of what I saw on that pod interview. Because I used to be like, never ever date a single mom. But I watched Paula Fessa of the way he did that interview, and I saw the way his wife came on, and just how you could just tell that he's that man, like he's the leader, he's the masculine figure in that relationship. So it's I don't believe with the 100% never. I think we should always have room for that possibility, but just in case if there are men going that way, we can still have the conversation instead of never providing anything for those guys and just be, oh, it's over for him. All we can do is pray and make sure he doesn't end up becoming one of MTR's videos. So,
look, I again, this is how it is in terms of accountability for me. I went into choosing that woman knowing full well the statistics, influenced by my experience, but not only that. The fundamental premise that most women operate out of is the same all across the board. They have subconscious desire for leaders, and this has been an experiment that I've had in these in these spaces when I came on to a year ago. Was that can I yield the same level of result that I do in reality, where there's women right in front of me and they give me the result that I have on these platforms? And one of the things that I'd like to at least gauge some metric from is I have called women out to their face and never had them sort of clap back at me in the sense of, look, your predicament and the choices you've made has resulted in you being the way that you are and having the result that you have. You're not as great as you think you are. You've made some bad decision and you're not willing to accept it. And you're going to get the same outcome with the terrible men that you keep choosing because of those decisions. And it's one of those things where I guess I'm seeing this mostly from the US, where a lot of the things that I believe in and see outcome for in reality, I get a lot of pushback on. The biggest one is discipline. I cannot fathom to the slightest how a man can advocate for discipline and financial gains in professional environment, and then when it comes to sexual dynamic, he will forego his discipline in that manner. And those are one of the things. Accountability is another one. And I'm not talking to having sexual relationship with women. We understand that casual sex is a thing, right? What I'm meaning is that this idea that men can just sleep around with no interest of building a relationship with at least that woman is just bizarre to me. It's bizarre that we can go through life sleeping with multiple women, having no care in the world, and call ourselves disciplined in one way or form. It's completely bizarre to me. So, yeah.
I had a question for Tea Leaves.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know you're talking about, considering a single mom, but you do have options of women who don't have kids, right?
Currently, not necessarily, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'll be transparent. Because I get to travel with my job and whatnot, like I travel to certain cities that maybe not like popular or very, like upper echelon. Let's use that word, right? So when I'm conducting myself the way that I conduct myself, it's very attractive to people who are in those situations. Usually the single women that I'm around or that I interact with, they're just kind of doing their own thing. It's kind of like there's no need to try to find something serious because I got something over there, over here, everywhere. You know what I'm saying? So to answer your question directly, not necessarily, no.
Not right now. Okay, not right now.
Yeah.
No, I would say is, I think I think it's important for a man, whatever you choose, but at least make sure that you have options of women who don't have children, so can give you a perspective. Because I think a lot of times, and for a lot of guys, because we know the average guy, he only takes what he can get. We understand this for the average guy, and I think for average guys, a lot of times, if the only option you have is a single mom, it's hard to gauge that just like you said, distinguish the difference. So if you're dating a woman if you have the option to be able to date a woman with no kids and still date a woman with single kids, at least as a man, you can see to distinguish the difference, and then weigh that and make the choice that you want for yourself. But I think if the only option you have is a single mom, and you don't have something to compare it to see if there's something that's better, something that you're more comfortable with, that can kind of it won't give you the perspective to see what's the best decision for you. And I think a lot of guys, if they're lacking options and the only one they got is a single mom, and maybe in his mind it's like, oh, maybe this is the best I can get, instead of at least attracting a different option with a woman that has no kids and realizing, well, all this stuff I'm dealing with this single mom right here, I don't have to deal with it with this woman who has no kids. And at least she can gauge, so it can give you a gauge on what you really want and what's best for you as a man. So
look, let me add this too. It's not just one. It's three women attracted to me right now that are single mothers. They all have different situations going on with the amount of kids that they have, but it's kind of like I was kind of driving home one day and I was just asking, because I'm not a Christian or nothing like that, but I was just having a conversation or whatever, and I was just like, why does this keep happening to me? Like, why is it that I'm doing everything I can to better myself? I went to therapy, got some things shored up, personal matters is starting to get sewed up. I'm feeling good. I exercise every day with the skating stuff. So it's like, I feel like I'm doing everything right, and I still am attracting not imperfect people. Let me not say imperfect, not bad people, but people that aren't in the same atmosphere as me as far as mindset and things of that nature. And I'm trying to figure out whether it's an aura that I have, like is it a certain energy that I'm giving off, or is it like a mindset change where am I being too nice? Am I being too forthcoming? Like it a lot of the things that average men, like I feel like I'm an average dude and I'm working my way up to be a little bit above average, right? Everything is confusing. So I have to literally sit back and comb through every decision and analyze it, because when I was quote unquote blue pill, I did take whatever was available to me. So, it's just it feels like a catch-22. It's like kind of like, damn if I do, damn if I don't. Because if I don't pursue any woman at all, I'm just gonna feel like crap, because in my heart of hearts, I want to be I'm a family man. Like my family, my immediate family, my mom, my sister, my brother, they love me to the ends of the earth and would do anything for me, and I would do the same for them. So I'm family 100%, and I want to have a family of my own. But
I'm going to ask you a question that might reveal the answer. What's your tolerance to risk like?
Tolerance to risk? I said in the chat, for a long time I was risk averse until I got introduced to the red pill. I was very risk averse. I've never smoked weed. I've never been to jail. Don't get into fights. Didn't like confrontation like that. But once I got introduced to the red pill, my attitude started to change a little bit. So I'm getting used to taking more risk, but it still needs some work. I'll give you that.
That's why you attract single mothers. There's a let's use aura, because the word I'm trying to find is not there, but the aura that you give off is safety, and that's what most single mothers look for. Single women who maybe have something going for them, especially a career, typically looks for things that challenges their risk tolerance. So that's where the differences is. And what I typically try to have conversation around is, as men, we're highly observant of the world around us. Not to be confused with things like self-aware and all of that. Be observant of the women that you're attracted to, and figure out the traits, not the type of men, not the men, but the traits that they're attracted to. And you have to make a decision whether that's what you need to put yourself through and to learn those skills or not, right? I am the type of person that if I was left to my own accord and had everything taken care for me, I would probably end up staying in my house 24/7. But in the pursuit of a lot of the things that I wanted as an outcome, like a family, a career that is above average, I had to step out of that and go, look here, you little introverted, shy pussy from the islands. If these are the things you want and these are the outcome that you truly desire, you have to put the work in. So that's where I would say is that it's not so much that there's remnants of safety to you, and this is probably the reason why single mothers who look and want safety is attracted to you, and that's where you have to look and reanalyze this. And I'm not saying to you go and risk yourself jumping off a cliff or whatever. Do things that are challenging in the ways that put you outside of your comfort zone, whether that's a promotion, whether that's taking up a hobby, or whatever those things may be. Those are the things that you need to work around if that's what you want. So,
and also just to add on to Lee's, I've dated single moms in the past, right? But the thing is, for me, is I was able to attract women who don't have children, and that gave me perspective. They gave me perspective of what okay. I understand dealing with this single mom is a lot different than dealing with the woman with no kids. So for me, it was like, okay, I saw the difference, and I really had to ask myself, okay, which one I really want, and then I realized that I'd rather just be with a woman that with no kids. Even though the girl that the single mom, she was very attractive, but there was things there was things that definitely needed to be worked on. But I think a lot of guys will, if that's their only option, will try to justify it. But it wasn't easy to justify or distinguish, because I can see the difference between just being with a woman had no kids. So it was easy. It was easy for me. Okay, I knew for a fact as me is like, I don't want to deal with this situation right now. So because I can see that it's a lot better in this way. So
yeah, I've dated a woman with a child before. It was a burn. It was definitely something that hurt badly, because I grew attached to the child. That was really the main issue.
Yeah.
So So yeah, I've definitely left that relationship licking my wounds and being very cautious. I guess listening to you guys and listen to other smart individuals, very you're giving a different side or a different perspective on certain concepts, right? And I try to not be beholden to one ideology or one way of thinking.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably where that comes from, as far as just my everyday life, just being open to the possibility, not going, putting all my chips in at the table, but just being open to the possibility that there could be something there. And that's basically what I'm talking about here. So
yeah, I think this is where we've lost the art of revealing the rules of engagement. If you decide to go down this warpath, you need to know the rule of engagement, and they're all different depending on the women, especially when you've got children involved. So if we reveal that in a lot of our conversation, at least you're more well equipped for when you can only face a specific type of predicament. If your options are single mothers, at least you know the rules of engagement, and at least you get some of the skill sets, or at least some notion of what that is and what you require. So, and look, I think what is important to me is building a legacy, and that is what's important to me. So I decide based on that. And at the time, very young, my idea of that is, I need a woman who's coachable. I need to be attracted to. And it just happened to be in the form of a single mother. I didn't care about the single mother part. I knew that, okay, I need to be accountable that this woman is going to bring a completely different dynamic. I'm ready to deal with it, but I need to build the legacy that I desire for me. I've seen my father build that for his children. That's the outcome I want, and I need to move forward and concentrate on different things. So it's different, and that's why I don't advocate for it, because it requires different ways of looking at life, and most of those perceptions are typically from childhood. So that's where my exposure to it came from. So
okay.
Yeah,
It wasn't.
and growing up with growing up in a single mother household for the most part, for a majority of the time that I was growing up, I can see where I was missing that aspect of it. I mean, I'm not jumping into anything, even though I said that there's a situation there. It's not like I'm abstaining. I'm not having sex with nobody. I haven't had sex in months, so it's not like I'm doing any of that stuff with them. But I definitely am taking my time, and I'm not making any rash decisions.
Yeah.
Just to give y'all that vote of confidence. All right. I wasn't born yesterday. All right.
yeah, just the sprinkle on top of that soliloquy that I went on about is, I'm an arrogant person, and part of my arrogance was applied to women in the sense of, you're just a woman. You cannot outman me ever. So that gave me the sense of confidence, in the sense of, whatever woman is put in front of me, if I'm attracted to you and you're coachable, I can do wonders with you. Don't matter what type of woman you are. So that's, I need to add that in order to contextualize the mindset that I have from dating and even to now. So because I think that should provide at least some detail into how the mindset of a man that goes through that sort of process.
Yeah. Plus, tea leaves, man. You just entered your prime, brother. You just you just entered your prime.
That's what they say.
So you're good. You're good, man. You got a lot of time. You got a lot of time.
I appreciate y'all for that.
But yeah, we've come to the end of the show. Man, shout out to everybody. Man, thank you so much. I see some new names. I see Little Plastic Spoon, Joe Latu, and of course MTR. Man, that's man, I've been watching MTR for a long time, so it's pretty cool that he jumped on and I was watching the show. So, but thank you so much as always. Thank you so much for being part of the pod. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We do this every single Thursday. The Mastermind. We just talk about masculinity, self-improvement, and purpose. So it's more focused for the fellas, and of course for the ladies out there that watch. You guys are more than welcome to join. It's a public show where anybody can jump in and be part of public guest, as you guys saw with Tea Leaves. And shout out to Tea Leaves. Hey, Tea Leaves, thank you so much. It was a great honor and opportunity to meet you finally. I see you in the live chat all the time, so I really appreciate the opportunity to jump on and be part of the convo. I'm just gonna ask you guys, some final thoughts you want to leave for everybody that's watching, and how can people find you if you want people to find you? I'll start with you, Tea Leaves. Final thoughts from the conversation tonight.
Well, first things first. Reach out to MTR, man. He's not an abrasive guy. He's a good dude. Y'all might be able to have some good conversations on the back end. So MTR is a cool dude. So reach out to him. He might respond back. On the show is I just want to appreciate y'all even having the conversation. And I understand where you guys were coming from the aspect of trying to just give a different perspective. So hey, no, we're never going to agree on everything, but just because you don't agree on everything doesn't mean that you can't understand where someone is coming from and, think about the bigger picture. So I agree with the bigger picture.
All right. Thank you so much, Tea Leaves. And last but not least, Pablo Fessa, final thoughts.
Final thoughts is build a body of work that you can reference in times of need. I think what's been lost in a lot of these conversations and a lot of the advice that we give people is that we assume that we deserve a result or an outcome just purely from the fact that we have been disadvantaged to a degree. Let the evidence of your history speak for itself. And be arrogant. And I mean that truly in the sense of be arrogant from the way that you cultivate competency and skill sets that are necessary for your life to be somewhat successful. I will always be a proponent for strong men. And in order to be strong, and this is why this podcast is such a wonderful opportunity, is that through friction is where we build strength. Not only amongst the ideas that we share as men with each other, but also through the adversity that we face in life. So, again, build a body of work that it's undeniable when you reference it, because it will give you the level of confidence that will usually be taken as arrogance, and be accountable to the decisions you make. If you're going to pick a single woman with no children, be accountable to that. If you're going to choose a woman with children, be accountable to that. And then build the outcome that you want. So again, the art of man is accountability, resilience, and disciplines. Those 3 tenets alone applies to all men. Practice them diligently and consistently, and I assure you that you will optimize yourself for the outcome that you desire.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. The only thing I'm going to leave for everybody is something that Palafessa always tells me. Are you a fucking man or are you a fucking mouse? Be a man. But as always, I appreciate you guys on the live chat. Thank you so much. We do this every single Thursday. Definitely want to let you guys know. If you guys want to jump on, don't forget to like or subscribe so you get notifications we do go live. And don't forget to public show. The link is in the description. So if you're watching this and you didn't want to jump on this time, you want to jump on next time. So definitely jump on next time when me and Paulo jump on and have another topic to discuss. But as always, fellas, keep working, keep striving, and be accountable for your decisions. But as always, we see you guys next time. Peace. Peace, y'all.